All right, we are on. The live stream is going on here. Guys that are out there tuning in for the live stream, thank you for watching. This is the High Stakes PLO podcast with Joe Ingram 1, aka Chicago Joey. We are joined by none other than Lefort, Sean Lefort, aka Lefortiments on Twitter. He's I'm just going to explain a bit about you. I know you're modest, so I don't want you explaining who you are to people. So I'm going to go ahead and just...
If I do it.
I'm going to go ahead. You can confirm or deny whatever I say, but I'm going to go ahead and just tell the people a little bit about you for them, the people that don't know who you are, because you're kind of a mystery to some people. So
Right.
you're a 31-year-old male currently living in Toronto. You are Canadian. You play... You play high stakes PLO on Poker Stars. You play mainly heads up. You are up approximately between $500,000 and $500 million. You enjoy going on nice dinners with your okay. You enjoy going on nice dinners. You enjoy wine at home. You enjoy working out. You enjoy eating 25 times a day. Obviously, look at your arms. You can kind of see your arms in the podcast. You make me look small, kid. I'm gonna go put a hoodie on. We have a hoodie around here, but okay. So you like to eat 15 times a day. You just started a workout blog. It's got some of the best information that I've read, from a poker player, and we're gonna talk about that a bit more later because, as I've called you the fittest man in poker, obviously, Ben 86 and Jason Kuhn might like to dispute that, but I don't care. You're the fittest man in poker to me. And
we should have like a fit off, like a poker fitness competition thing. That would be fun.
That would be a lot of fun. I got to think about that more. That actually sounds like a pretty good idea. I know. I'm pretty sure Ben 86 would be down for something like that.
Probably, yeah.
He likes to.
I've met him before. He seems, or no, I have met him, but only briefly. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a guy reminds me of you a lot, actually.
Okay, so of all the things you listed, I will say 90% of it was bang on. The other 10% of it, I will not confirm nor deny.
Okay, so you can't confirm that you like to go on dates at nice dinners, or which part are you?
I have to decide whether I want to release the information that I don't want to confirm nor deny.
I already know that you don't want to release information. So,
all right.
So, thank you for joining me on the episode. This is like live, and I'm not going to edit it. So, like now, I'm kind of like, I'm nervous. I've never talked to a girl before. I have a guest on right now. I haven't done a PLO podcast in a couple weeks. Actually, I want to get some things out of the way. So, my podcasts are officially. I got the email today. They're officially up on iTunes. You can search either Chicago Joey, Poker Podcast, or I'm going to put it Joe Ingram 1 Poker Podcast, something like that as well. And you'll be able to download all the episodes on there. Everyone's been asking for this for about 4 months, and I finally did it. And I started doing my a new series called The Poker Life, when the first guest I had was Bart Hansen, and that is going to be up as well. And those podcasts are going to be just a series of me talking with people outside of PLO, and hopefully I'll be able to get some interesting people on. I have some interesting ideas for guests I'd like to have in the future. And yeah, man, I don't know what else to say, man. Sean, talk for a bit, man. Tell the people about yourself.
Well, I guess everything Joey said was accurate. I've been playing poker for a long time, kind of a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to online poker, which is kind of cool. I've been around to see pretty much everything. So I've been in and out of as far as how much I've been playing, because there's been times where I was at school. I didn't do the whole drop out of school thing like a lot of guys did. Like back in the day when Party 2550 was like the big game, I was pretty much like one of the regulars in that game, and at that time, everybody who was playing that game were pretty much like dropping out of school to make a ton of money, because all of a sudden everybody was like making a ton of money playing these high stakes cash games, and I just never did that. Instead, I was that guy who would do my schoolwork and then party and then come home drunk and play the games and just play when I had time to play, basically. And I definitely definitely don't regret that decision as far as staying in school because I just had so much fun and I'm glad like I had that experience. But it definitely cost me a lot of money by not, focusing on the games when they were super good.
Wait,
But
hold on. I like sometimes I interrupt, but you said you had a lot of fun in school.
oh yeah, yeah, school was the best. I like people. Some people like they graduate and they're like, oh, I'm so over school. I'm so glad to be done with school. But it's just like it's such a great time of your life. Like you just have no responsibilities, and you're meeting all these interesting people. You're part of like a social network, and yeah, it was just like so much fun. Then I don't know. For me, like that's a big thing that I miss about school, and it's a big thing that I miss or I guess it's like one of my few complaints about poker is it's not a very good like way. It's terrible for the social aspect of it is terrible in my opinion. Because like I have a lot of poker friends and like they're awesome people and stuff, but they're a very unique crowd. Like the poker people. And as a poker player, those are really the only people you have exposure to in your career. It's not like you have a network of people that you deal with. And I find that that's like one thing that poker lacks is like and that's one thing that you have at school is that social network where you're just meeting new people all the time and having interesting experiences and yeah, I guess I just missed that. I don't know. I've thought about going back to school someday, but I just have no idea what I'd go back for. Plus I'd be way too old.
So what's to stop you from potentially just living in a college atmosphere, a college town, and
I
just
mean, at that point, it's just like I'm just gonna be too old, like that my time has passed. I feel like for that type of thing.
I think I think certain people could pull off this idea, and I think you might be one of the people that could pull it off. You still kind of have that college guy look going on to you.
Yeah, wearing the backwards cap and just kind of chilling. Yeah, I could do that maybe.
I mean,
Actually, what's funny? I went back to college. I went back to my college a few years ago. So I graduated in like '08, and then I went back in like 2011.
what college is this?
Well, it's Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. It's known as like the Harvard of the North. So it's like
Oh,
one of the best Canadian schools, but I'm sure it's like unknown to you Yankees. But anyways, so yeah, we went back and it was like it was insane. First of all, the kids were so young. It was like I immediately felt super creepy because it was just like who like I'm used to being here and being part of like the people that are here, and all
so
the buildings were the
just
same, all the streets were the same, and the
just
people were
reiterate on
all
where here is. So
fourteen years old.
you live in Toronto downtown right now, right?
I do.
So for people that have never lived in a downtown before, it's mainly going to be depending on which section of town you're in. Most of the downtowns I've lived in are usually 20s and 30s professionals, and the type of people you meet is just so much different than being in a college town, and the mindset, the goals, the motivation that these people have and what
Totally
they're
different.
doing on a day-to-day basis is just so much different. So I'd
Mhm.
imagine you going back to your college was just like a fucking you know
It was ridiculous. And the other thing too about my college is it's very much like a tight knit community where the college exists. So where you have the campus and where the people live, it's just all 18 to 24-year-olds basically. And so we went back as like 28-year-olds, and we show up at the bar, and we all have like beards and stuff. And it was like we were like, it was so obvious that we were not part of the social scene that I looked at my buddies and I was like, it's actually like we're holograms right now. People are just like walking through us. We're just not part of this party. It was pretty funny. But yeah, it was a little humbling. It was kind of one of those life experiences where you're like, all right, I guess I've reached kind of the next stage of my life. I can no longer party where I went to school.
well, I know that for people that listen to my podcast, they know I enjoy music festivals, I enjoy raging, and I know that you mentioned that you went to EDC, which is in Las Vegas. You went there last year, so that scene is a very young crowd as well. So
Yeah,
how do you
it's
feel there?
definitely like a bit of a different scene though, I find, because yeah, I don't know. I mean, everybody there at like a rave is just so happy, right? Like it doesn't really matter. You could be
Yeah.
like there could just be like some 40-year-old creepy guy and people won't care because they're just like whatever, everyone's just chilling. So it's like a different setting, I feel like, as opposed to like a campus bar where you have like campus people and that same 40-year-old guy, if he's at that bar, He's just, it's not kosher at all.
Um,
But yeah, I definitely do feel like those festivals, I'm getting a little old for them though. So that's why I don't really do them unless I'm going with like a ton of friends.
I well, I know the things. So guys, so Sean has a list, an idea of things he doesn't want to talk about. I'm going to talk about the things still that I want that I'm going to give my insight, but he's not going to give his insight. So
Okay.
so when I go to music festivals, I got to be honest, I don't notice anybody around me. Now now that might be for a couple of different reasons. Maybe I'm with a girl, we're in
You're
love.
on drugs.
Sean, I don't know about you, but a kid like me enjoys drugs, and especially when I'm at a music festival, I enjoy them. I like to
Okay.
have fun. I like to be in love. And I don't notice the crowd. So that's why, but I imagine, a clean 6,000 calories a day, a clean living guy like yourself probably would notice the people around them, more than I would be noticing them. So
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So our experiences are slightly different.
obviously, I have some inside information on the things I'm saying right now, so I don't want to talk about this anymore. So, we're gonna get into a couple of hands. We're gonna talk some PLO because I like to show. Obviously, you've seen the podcast, so I like to go over 8 to 10 hands, talk about some regs, comment on the hands. You
Cool.
know, this isn't a super in-depth strategy thing, even though I've gotten messages from people who do look at this and they feel like they do learn a bit or a lot, and they do get some strategy out of it. But obviously, like our goal is not to go in depth into you know, breaking. Joey sounds like. So I'm reading the comments. Joey sounds like the prototype of an MDMA user. That's so true.
Where do you see the comments? I want to be able to
Okay,
see.
yeah. So in the YouTube section, you can refresh the page. You might have to
Oh,
refresh the page. So there's going to be a comments. You can view all comments. So right now we have someone. Now people are going to be listening to this also on. Yeah, just mute the audio.
yeah, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so people are going to be listening to this on actual iTunes as well, so they're not going to be able to see some of the things that we're going to be maybe talking about or doing. So,
Cool.
Donk Predator is in the chat, and he would like you to flex your biceps real quick. Can you give him a little?
I'm sporting my Chiang Mai workout gym. This is when did I tell you I broke my ankle 3 months ago?
You told me we were talking the other day, and you said something about you just got back to working out because your ankle recovered.
Yeah, so I spent yeah, so this is about as small as my arms have been in a long time.
Yeah, it looks small. Let me see again. Hold on, do it again. You got to talk. I can see it.
But yeah, basically what happened was I went to Thailand, had a great time, and then near the end of the trip, I got in a motorbike incident, which was not fun, and managed to break my ankle and tear all of my ligaments. So I spent 3 months without putting any weight on my ankle. Yeah, not very fun. So I couldn't work out, obviously. I would basically just do these lame crunches and push-ups on the floor for 20 minutes and try not to eat any carbs so I didn't get fat, and played a ton of poker. And that's why I basically the last 3 months have had like double poker volume of like what I would normally play.
So how have let's talk some, I know you don't want to get too much into results, obviously, but so has the year gone well for you so far?
Yeah, it started off really poorly. Yeah, I just started off when we were in Thailand, just kind of like, I mean, it was just like a really shitty downswing to start the year. I also kind of finished last year on a downswing, so that wasn't fun. But I just, I don't know. Downswings kind of are just very motivational for me because even though a lot of the time, it's not really your fault because maybe you're playing well, but you're just, running bad. It's still like good motivation to just like, figure it out and start doing, looking into your game and making some changes and improving. So all of like February and March, I just spent an insane amount of time just like going over my game, but also still somehow kept up a ton of volume. So I basically spent like 3 or 4 months doing nothing but like poker stuff just because of this injury. And it's worked out well because, turned the year around pretty good and pretty happy about it so far. And my plan now that I'm healthy, is just enjoy the summer and then really just play poker when I feel like it. Because I kind of feel a little burned out from playing so much. I have no idea how guys like Karamont play Zoom for like 6 hours at a time. I have no idea how these guys have stamina like that. I don't have it.
Well, if you watch the Karamon podcast, you
I
might
did. He's a cool guy,
you
interesting
might have
guy.
a better understanding of how Karamon can play so many hours.
I definitely was under the impression that he did a lot of drugs, but from the podcast, it seems as though that is not the case. So I don't know. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's I don't know. It's tough to say. He
So
certainly plays sometimes like he's on something.
so I got to tell you what. When Karamont told me he wasn't a drug addict, I had to tell him I don't believe him, and I still don't believe him. There's no fucking chance he's telling me the truth.
He seems like a pretty straight edge guy, though. I don't know. It's tough to say.
Oh my God! I mean, he's in Colombia, obviously. I mean, I know he's in love with a girl down there, which is a big part of the reason why he's in Colombia. And I think he enjoys it down there. But I also know drugs are very prevalent in Colombia. So
That's true.
if I had to speculate,
Yeah, yeah. There's always like,
have you
yeah.
seen some of the hands? This guy's fucking insane.
I know. Like I play against him all the time. It's like, he like jams the river in a spot where like nobody jams the river, and you're just like, is he on drugs or is this part of his strategy? And then you just like call and lose or whatever, and you're like, okay, maybe he's just like not on drugs or whatever.
So is that literally in your thought process these days when you play Caramont?
No, but I mean, he's definitely a reg that will do things that other regs will not. So it's certainly something you have to watch for, in a tricky way. I mean, I think he's really good. I remember you guys talking. He was asking. I think he said something about how he's curious as to what I think about his game. I think he's really good. I think he does a lot of things really well that a lot of the other regs don't do well, and I think he's also very good at exploiting the regs, including me. I feel like I hate six max. I don't know if I've told you this. Six max, every time I play six max, I just want to quit poker. I hate it, but I have to play it because I can't always play heads up. So I definitely have a lot of like six max leaks, and I'm like aware of, and I feel like he's pretty good at exploiting some of them. But yeah, he's really good. I think he's a solid player for sure.
Well, I'll relay the message to him. I'm guessing he'll probably watch this. I think he's got a lot of free time hanging out down in Colombia. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm always like tentative as to whether to like say somebody's, because like I mean I guess for me too, I play a lot of heads up, so I'm always like conscious of this. But if I have like a friend of mine and I just like go on about how he's a really good poker player, like that might hurt his action for like future. Like I've always been amazed at WCG, for example, being a heads up specialist, just being like, yo, bro, I'm the best. Like just having that attitude, because like I appreciate that. I think it's awesome. But on the other hand, I'm like, is he? I don't know if he's like costing himself money doing that, or I don't know. It's interesting. It's kind of like another part of the aspect of being a businessman poker player.
I mean, I think it's definitely interesting. Obviously, for those that don't know, me and WCG do a podcast together. We've done 2 episodes so far, and I just talked to him today. We're going to be recording another episode next week, and I mean, he's definitely taking a very, very, very unique approach to to everything as far as that whole thing goes. I'm not really sure like why he does it. I don't think I think he just doesn't care. You know what I mean? Just like
That's kind of the impression I get. Yeah.
he's just like whatever. You know what I mean? He's always kind of been that way, I guess. But now that he's just at like this super visible level as far as playing high stakes and $1 million upswings, $1 million downswings in like weeks and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be pretty interesting as far as how things go with him in terms of heads up. And I know he's been talking about wanting to get in some live games a bit more. He said he met Phil Ivey and he talked to Phil Ivey and was asking him about potentially getting some live games. So I feel like he kind of is going to eventually kind of venture into that path and maybe not as much online. So
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think the sustainability of live nosebleed games is much higher than online games. I think like if you go 2 years into the future and you take a look at the live crazy high stakes games that are going on, I would imagine they're probably going to be pretty much the same types of games that are going on right now. But I don't think you will be able to say the same about the online games. So it makes sense to kind of start, venturing into that territory if you're WCG, I think.
Yeah. You talked about the live game, the online game. So right now, what are your regular games that you're playing on a regular basis?
Like I prefer playing like 25, 50, 51, like heads up. Obviously, I'm not going to get a lot of heads up action to be able to sustain, um, you know, a daily basis to play those levels. So I mean, I actually would prefer, like I just love playing heads up. Like even when I play Hold'em, I just really love playing heads up. So I would prefer playing like 3-6 heads up than playing like 25-50 zoom. Even though it's like gonna be more profitable for me to play the zoom probably, but I just like, as far as being a poker player and sitting at the computer for a few hours and really enjoying what I do, heads up by far is just like way more engaging and interesting to me.
Mhm.
So that's like primarily what I kind of look for each day, is try to get as much heads up action, but it's not always easy. So I'll frequently play the six max games, and obviously, like when nowadays, like when 51 or 1-2 is running, there's pretty much like always a reason why. So like it's very frequently like as soft or softer than like 25-50. So when they run, I'll play those games as well. Um, and if I have to play like 10-26 max, if that's like the only option I have, I'll just like go to the gym again or something.
So,
I just would rather like shoot myself than have to play that for a living. Yeah, I apologize to all the people that play that for a living.
bro,
I don't enjoy
yo,
it.
yo, how rich are you, honestly? Jesus fucking Christ. 10, 20,
No, it's not so much
five
that.
cans and
It's
turn you
like,
on or what? I mean, Jesus.
no, I don't know. It's just like not as exciting to like a potential. Like if I have one day where I'm just like in a heated 51 battle with like another really good reg, and it's just like a super fun battle, and it's very engaging and mentally stimulating, and it's just like great experience, and just like, oh, that was an awesome match. I beat him or he beat me, or like, and you wanna improve, and then the next day there's just like nothing going on, but except for playing like five-handed 10-20 with like a bunch of regs. It's just like, fuck, it's not at all what I want to do, right? So it's just a matter of like relativity between what your normal or what games you prefer are.
I mean,
But
I would agree. I've played, I played a lot of hands at all stakes, 5, 10, 10, 20, 20, 50, 50, 100, and that was one thing I was able to be really good at, was just like kind of, if something was running this day, I could play that. If and if nothing was running, I could still, put in 8 hours playing 5, 10 if nothing else higher was running for a week, something like that.
that's impressive. That's a good skill to have for sure.
Yeah, but then I started doing drugs, and I was 24 tabling 5, 10 to 50 to 100, and you might be able to guess this didn't go well.
Yeah, that probably is too many tables, I think.
Yeah, and the thing was,
Like 17 too many tables.
I was doing it okay for the first month before I started doing drugs, and then when I started doing drugs, it didn't really go so well. So, like I've always read and you've always told, like, drugs are bad, they're gonna ruin your life in a way. I was always like, I don't really believe that. But in a way, it ruined my bankroll, but I think it was a great learning experience for me to go through.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Like I wouldn't necessarily correlate bankroll with happiness and how much you enjoy life. So if you got a good experience from it and you moved on and grew as a person, then it is what it is.
Yeah, it's very disheartening to know that the money you lost in like 2 months is going to take you like 2 years to make back, though.
Yeah, that's really one of the shitty things about being a high stakes player, is that if 1-2 runs tomorrow for a few days because there's a fish playing, and I just like lose 200K playing, in order to win that back, when if those games are not running again for another month or two, it's just like grinding 10 hours a day playing 10-20 or something, and that's just not a very interesting thought. I just
Well,
have to do that.
I know for a lot of guys that play, 50, 100, 100, 200, they actually, most people I know have done this. They usually are selling action. So if they, for instance, about a month ago, Phil Galfond played Isildur at that 300, 600, and he lost 1.2 million.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was wondering, like something what you just said, like those games are probably not going to run. That game's not going to run again, most likely. So
Right.
was it
Well,
really
yeah.
worth it
Depending
to
on
play
what
there?
Victor wants to do with his money.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends. But so that's what I was. It kind of goes along that same. Obviously, he sells pieces of himself, but it kind of goes along that same thing. What you said is like, is that spot really worth it when that game, you know, might not run again for, who knows
It's
how long.
true. I mean, it's really it comes down to how much you think your value is in that game and whether it's worth it. I mean, I actually recall you and Doug talking about this, and I think Doug just said you got to take that spot because it's there it might not come up again, and I think I agree with him. I mean, it'd be different if it was like 2008, 2009, and you could pretty much, I mean, obviously Black Friday happened or Black Monday or whatever it was, but at that
You
point
wouldn't even know.
you would estimate that these games were probably going to occur for another few years. So you could be a little more patient, maybe. But I don't feel the same way nowadays. I mean, like even since I started playing higher stakes PLO in the last like year and a half, I've seen a lot of changes in the way like nosebleeds occur and how frequently they occur. So I certainly don't suspect that you can expect a lot of spots to come up in the next few years. Like I don't think Victor's going to sit you at 3-6 PLO very often. So when he does, you kind of have to take that opportunity if you
So
think you have an edge.
are you if you were in that spot, would you play? And if you would play, would you be selling action? I'm guessing 300, 600, you'd probably be selling action, but maybe 100, 200, you'd probably be keeping all your action, maybe.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly accurate. I mean, it is Victor, so um, if I were to lose a bunch, like I mean, like I haven't played Victor much heads up. Whenever we play, he quits me and says I'm too good, or like he'll like force me to stop doing something on the button, like he'll be like stop min raising or stop limping or something, and it's just against him. It's just giving away too much because of the way he plays, and then we're just like like we can't come to a conclusion. Or like what I'll often do if somebody tells me not to do something pre-flop, I'll be like, okay, well then you can't check raise. And they'll be like, what? I'm like, well, that's like equally as stupid of a thing to say as you telling me what not to do pre-flop. So, like, don't act like I'm an idiot for asking you to do that. So, but anyways, yeah. So we haven't really played that much, but I assume that a Victor match could probably get pretty out of hand, like in PLO, given that you could pretty much probably win or lose like 20 or 30 buy-ins very, very quickly. So I might reevaluate my choice to buy or sell action depending on how things are going. But for the most part, I think I would probably just take my action at 1-2. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into a hand since, I mean,
All right. Let me
you
go to
like
the
to show the
bathroom
hand.
first. I'll let you set it up. I've just drank too much coffee.
All right, I'll just talk about the hand, and I'll put up the screen share of it. So this first hand is a hand that Lefort sent me, and I'm gonna pull it up on the screen share right now. I'm still pretty noob to this whole Google Hangout live streaming thing, so let's pull this up here. And it's a hand at 100, 200 that Sean played. All right, cool. We have it right here. So this hand is with Lefort, so it's at 100, 200, and
All right. I'm back.
boom. All right. So when I talk, it's going to show the hand. So I'm just going to just explain the hand real quick, and
Yep.
then we'll go from there. So I'm talking about the hand versus Odd Odson that you sent me.
Yep.
Can you see it on my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So in this hand, it's not. It's a looks like so it's Lefort, Sauce 123, Odson, Jeans, and then Sam Rustin, who's down like $15 million on online poker, which I'm guessing this is probably the reason this game's running. So it's a 100 200 deep game, and this is between Lefort and Odson, and they're 50K effective, so 250 big blinds. So Sean raises King King 5-5, no suits, under the gun, gets 3-bet by Odson, calls the flop King Queen Jack, so he flops top set, and he check calls a bet from Odson, turns a 4, bringing a backdoor club draw. He's got a king blocker, but probably not super relevant. And he checks, and Odson bets 10K. He calls, leaving himself a pot size river shove, and Odson does go ahead and jam blank river, and Lefort calls. Now Lefort sent me this hand, and when I first looked at the hand, I thought it was a boring hand, but he tells me he thinks it's an interesting hand. Now I'm not gonna. I'll let you kind of go from there. We'll talk about the hand, and then we'll show the results. We'll keep the results a secret here. So go ahead.
Sure.
What makes you think? Why do you think this hand is interesting?
Okay, well, I think like a lot of people will look at this hand probably and think that it's super standard because I'm like, quote unquote at the top of my range, so I have to call on the river. Like just for PLO people or sort of for like mid stakes guys, I don't know if people, like just to make sure that everybody understands the dynamic of the hand. Obviously, Odson is representing a straight on the river, and I have a bluff catcher. So the big thing is that I opened would be effectively mid position because we're five-handed, and Odson three bet on the button, which I tend to get three bet a little bit more than most regs, I think, because I open a bunch, and Odson definitely, I think he probably targets me a little bit. He's maybe three betting me a little wider than normal there, but in essence, it's the spot where he knows my opening range is somewhat tight. He's not going to get too crazy with his three betting, so aces are certainly going to be a very prevalent part of his range. Now, when he has aces, he's sometimes going to have a 10, which means he's going to have the nuts, obviously. So the thing is that when he has aces, I think he's certainly going to be betting. He's going to be using his blockers and going three streets a very high percentage of the time because he's going to have a straight a very high percentage of the time. But what people, I think, misunderstand and misapply about PLO is that, like, my hand is not the best bluff catcher here at all. I don't have any blockers. Like, my ultimate hand strength is very strong. But if I had, for example, a queen jack 10, that's a better hand to call the river with than my hand, even though it's a much weaker hand.
Yeah, this is going to be the most strategy ever talked about. I'm never going to get this deep into a hand on this podcast ever again. But
sorry, I'm really bad about it because I'm very bad at just like skimming over poker stuff. If I'm going to get into it, I'm like going to get into it. So.
Let's get into it. It's one or two hands. We have two hands by you. We have some other hands we're going to show. Let's get into this shit. Come on, let's go.
Okay, why not, right?
Let's go.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying here is that obviously I need to bluff catch the river here a bunch because Odson is going to have aces that he's using as blockers a bunch, and he's also going to have a straight a bunch. So depending on his frequencies, whether he's going to be over bluffing or under bluffing, I don't really know whether that's the case because Odson's a good player. He's probably going to be fairly balanced here, which means I need to basically call with some of my bluff catchers and fold some of my bluff catchers. So clearly I have a bluff catcher here, and what I don't have at all is any sort of blocker. I don't have an ace blocker. I don't have a 10 blocker. Ace blocker here is kind of not that relevant because it actually decreases his chances of having aces, which is one of his key bluffing hands. So the 10 is really the key. And basically, any of my bluff catchers here, if I had a 10, I would definitely call the river. And I'm not quite convinced whether I would have to call much wider than that. And my hand here obviously doesn't have a 10. And that would be why I'm saying that I think it's an interesting spot because I'm still not convinced I made the right call from a theory standpoint. That being said, that's kind of like the theory talk.
So I'm going to go ahead and show the hand one more time. So it's just for people listening that are, they might have missed the beginning. Because I know sometimes when I listen to something and I'm hearing the cards explained, I miss it. So you have
right.
King 5-5, flop King Queen Jack, you flop top set, you check call, turn, 4 clubs, brings a backdoor flush draw, so it's King Queen Jack 4 with 2 clubs, and you check call another bet from Odson.
Yeah,
on the river.
Like pre-flop, flop, and turn are very, very standard. I'm just, there's just too many straights out there for me to like be trying to get value out of top set. It's just not a spot. You're just gonna be you're bluff catching here, hoping for the board to pair, obviously. And Odson's also very aware that I basically have, a set here a very large percent of the time. Had the river paired, I would be donking, but it didn't, and we have a bluff catcher. So, like I said, the situation is that he's going to very frequently have the nuts. He's also going to very frequently have ace blockers. Now, the thing is that I think a lot of people have trouble controlling their bluffing frequencies and spots, because I think what happens is that in this situation, if he were to always bluff every single time he has aces but not have a straight, I think he's going to be over bluffing. I think he has to control himself a little bit. I'd have to look at the combinatorics, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a 10 to go along with his aces enough of the time for him to just go nuts every time he has ace blockers. But I think a lot of regs in this situation will just bang out 3 streets with ace blockers, and then thus on the river I think a lot of them will be over bluffing. And that's why I decided to call on the river even though I didn't have a blocker. But Odson's a really good player, so it's possible that he's actually playing very balanced in this spot, and I should have folded the river, but...
we're going to go ahead and show the hand here. So
Yeah.
So he does go ahead and bluff the river. He bets 32,000 into a $34,000 pot, so the end total ends up being about a $100,000 pot.
Yeah.
And you call, and when I made this call versus Odson, he always has straight, but obviously he has the ace 4 8 for the blockers, and you take down a $98,200 pot. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was good. It felt good, actually, especially being against Odson, because he just wins all the money, so it's nice to win a little from him.
He does. So did you celebrate? So when you win a $98,000 pot, do you feel like you celebrate a little bit extra that night?
No, I'm actually very much the opposite. When I'm doing well at poker, I tend to not celebrate. But when I'm doing poorly at poker, that's when I tend to just like go blow a bunch of money, shopping for clothes, or like just doing things that reminds you that you've done well in poker. And like just because you've lost a bunch of money recently doesn't mean you've lost your ability to be a poker player. Just to remind yourself, So that's kind of the way I like to handle it. I don't do a lot of celebrating wins, because I know how quickly, as you know, they can disappear at times.
So you're saying that when you win money, it's more of a romantic night at home, drinking some wine.
Right, yes. That would be how I would like to celebrate, basically. Maybe watch a movie.
Oh, you watch a movie, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Would you choose the movie, or would you let your lover for the night choose the movie?
Whatever's on Netflix.
Well, when I watch a movie with a girl,
Uh-huh.
if it's the first time we hang out, she chooses the movie, because my
That's
girlfriend's watching this. Well, it's okay. I talk all kind of crazy shit on here anyway. But okay,
Yeah.
So here's some strat for people out there listening who might be a bit more noob. So if I was to have a girl over to watch a movie, obviously when you watch a movie with a girl, I mean, you already know what's up. But you should always let the girl choose the movie the first time, or the first or second time. You know what I mean? Make her feel a bit special. But after that, I mean, fuck, I'm choosing the movie. You know what I mean?
So you just kind of like trick them into, being on movie status with you, and then you just boss them into watching whatever movies you want to watch.
Well, I gotta be honest. In the past, I've never really made it to like movie date 3. You know what I mean? I'm kind of just like, I used to live by like hit that, quit that kind of, that used to be my motto for a long time. But
Okay.
and then as I got older, and once I started falling in love, unfortunately, that changed. Yeah.
I love how you follow that up immediately with unfortunately.
I mean,
Unfortunately, I sometimes fall in love.
thing is, like, you may or may not know about this. We can speculate, but as a single poker player with the ability to go anywhere you want, live anywhere you want, do anything you want, I feel like it's much more enjoyable. I'm not saying right, man, Aaron's watching this. Aaron, I'm sorry, but I told you this. It's much more enjoyable to be single as a poker player. I mean, you can go anywhere. A friend, Lefort, tells me, hey, Joe, we're going to go raging this weekend in Toronto. You want to come up here? Yeah, I want to go. I'm in. But,
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. There's definitely more opportunity to enjoy the single life, as opposed to somebody who works a 9 to 5 and they get home from work and they don't have much time to do anything. They kind of want somebody to kind of hang out with for those hours. Meanwhile, we have the freedom to just, like you said, just kind of do whatever and go have fun. And when you're in a relationship, it's kind of difficult to do that. I've learned that. I've been a poker player with a serious relationship, and to just be like, oh, I'm piecing out to Vegas for 6 weeks for the World Series. Is not really conducive to a relationship. It's not easy to do. So I definitely enjoy that aspect. And to be honest with you, I think you do way better at poker when you're single.
I was just going to ask you that because this is
Oh,
something I
so
wanted. I wanted to write about this because I feel like I was thinking about this the other day. I think about this all the time. I feel like I was so much more like hungry. Or I feel like I'm still really motivated, but I feel like when I was single, like you just have these like you want to do better. You're more motivated. You're like more hungry. Like you have this idea like all right, if I like make this money, I can do this, and I can date that person or be with that. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
it's obviously I focus a lot of my desires I used to around like the idea of women and dating and traveling and all that kind of shit like that. And not everybody's like that, but why do you think that it's better
um,
to be?
to be honest with you, I think a lot of it is physiological. I think when you're not having constant connection intercourse with somebody. As a young male, you've got a lot of testosterone building up, and it's I find like my workouts, like sports related stuff. Athletes always talk about how they do better when they're not having sex the night before a game, for example. I think it's kind of the same idea in that when you're just like you are single, you have motivation to like to be successful and then find a better mate, a more it's kind of a shallow way of like explaining the situation, but I also think it's just human nature to kind of once you're dating somebody to kind of slow things down a bit because now you're becoming like a family animal as opposed to like this rogue that's out there trying to like succeed in the world. And I guess like I personally, a lot of it's time too. I mean, when you are in a relationship, you have a lot of time commitment with that person, and you can't just be like, skipping out on dinners constantly because the games are good, or being like, oh, I've had a shitty week, so I'm going to spend all weekend looking at my database and figuring out how to get better at poker because you've got to like hang out with their family on like a camping trip. So like, you can't. I firmly believe it's very difficult to be a really successful high stakes poker player if you are in a committed relationship, unless that person is like very very accepting and understanding of the situation. I'm sure it's possible, but it's difficult to get to that level with somebody, I think. And I think that all of the other guys playing high stakes that don't have that to deal with kind of have a bit of an edge in that aspect, in that like they basically have the freedom 24 hours a day to work on their game or to play poker. So you got to look at those things when you're considering your edges or lack thereof against people and stuff. So I don't
Yeah, I
know.
was gonna also say that obviously the time thing is really important because like when you're single you can, if you want to play for a day, 2 day, 5, 10, 2 days straight, whatever. If you just want to play poker, you don't want to do anything else. You don't want to be bothered. You don't want to be stressed out. You just want to play. You just want to focus in. You want to do well. But obviously, when you're with a girlfriend, girlfriends they want to see you, even if they understand that you this is what you do and this is how your schedule is. They still want to see you, and you want to see them. If you're dating them, you probably
Sure.
really enjoy being around them. So it's something I'm learning to get better at. Obviously, I'm not playing high stakes anymore. I'm playing, mid stakes and the bottom of the high stakes. So like it's not as like I can be a bit more flexible as far as, the hours I play and
Right.
we've actually done pretty well as far as, making it all work and her not, she, is really supportive when I play and stuff like that and brings me
Yeah.
water, sometimes brings me food. She's pretty awesome in that respect. So
Yeah.
but I mean, I don't think when I was younger, like I would have been able to have like. I don't think that's probably why I didn't have a relationship because I wanted to focus. I wanted to get really good at poker. I wanted to,
Yeah.
get to a certain level, get to a certain skill level, make a lot of money, and that's the number one reason why I didn't ever have a girlfriend. And I think once I got to a level where I was comfortable with, my bankroll or the level I was at, or what I thought my future was be. That's when I got a girlfriend. That's when I was, decided that, all right, I'm going to date this girl. I'm going to move to Australia and date this crazy girl that I met in Spain. And
I think it's funny because like now that I think a little bit more about it and I kind of hear your experience, it's possible that it's one of those things where like at mid stakes it's actually like a better spot to have a girlfriend because it helps have some structure and routine in your life, and it just kind of keeps you, a little more like even keel. But then when if you're playing like high stakes or nosebleeds, it's just like you like gotta get rid of the girlfriend because it's just like a different world, like it's so much more like cutthroat. Games are happening like sometimes and not happening sometimes, and you gotta be prepared. You gotta be on top of your game constantly. You can't just like 12 table your C game and make money because you have to be constantly just in the zone. You can't be like a little bit hungover because you had some drinks last night with your girlfriend. Like it's just like kind of like maybe that's the way it works. Is like you gotta get rid of that girlfriend if you're gonna move up.
That's really interesting because I actually haven't shot took in like 7 months. And for anyone that followed my poker career, read my blogs, I used to love shot taking. I shot took probably like 1,000 times in 1 year. You know what I mean? Like I love shot taking, and you know, I've kind of just learned to enjoy not having this insane swings and variance, and like I think at this point I'm rolled to, if I wanted to start playing higher, I could play higher as a regular basis, but like I just don't have much of a desire really to do that, because, and that's probably a reason why, to be honest, is that having being in a relationship kind of just kind of mellows you out a bit, and you're not always like chasing that like big whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I know what you're saying. You maybe don't have quite the fire to take a shot.
Yeah. Well, also I think it has to do with me, you know, never having that amount of money, never having that success at poker, and then once you have that success, I think for me I realized like it wasn't that exciting. The only difference was I was living in more expensive places for rent. I lived in more baller places, and I bought nicer clothes. But for the most part, like I didn't really buy anything else. My life didn't really change. So like the mystery to get to that point, get to that level of success was what motivated me initially. But at this point, like I don't really have a desire to get back to that point, because like it wasn't that exciting when I got there the first time. What exactly is going to be exciting about it this time around?
Right.
So, and but obviously for you, you have like $100 million, so you don't know what I'm talking about. So it's okay, kid. It's fine. You gotta.
No, I believe what you said earlier was between 500,000 and 500 million. So
I'm gonna take. Damn, it's blurry. I'm gonna take the near 500 million.
All right.
Yeah. Let's get into a hand. Let's get into a hand, kid. Let's get into second hand. So
we got some comments here that are funny and interesting too.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
I don't know.
Actually, I haven't checked
I haven't really looked at them until now, so I'm just kind of like, I think there were some from a long time ago when we were talking about other stuff.
Well, I'll show this hand. We'll get some comments lined up, and so let's talk with this hand. So you took 30 minutes and you sent me to the fucking like. Okay, the first hand obviously you thought was awesome, and it was.
I thought it was interesting. Yeah, the second one was just like a dumb play that worked out. I think it's really funny.
I don't even want to show this hand. This hand.
Showing it then. Skip to the ones that you got.
I do this like 100 times a day. I raise a bluff. Whatever. Let's show the fucking hand. Okay. So
it's a bad play. It's a terrible play, and it's just so funny that he had like the nuts and just decided to play, and I actually got there.
No, this isn't a bad play. All right, so you're playing a guy named Fumby, 1983. Yeah. Do you have any reads on Fumby? Anything you'd like to say about Fumby? Is he an idiot? Is he awesome?
The name rings a bell, so I definitely played against him a bunch. It seems to be in dollars, so that makes me think it was probably iPoker. Because it wasn't stars and it wasn't full tilt. So, anyways, it isn't somebody notable, I don't think, unless somebody was multi-counting or something. But it's not like we had crazy long matches. Right. But it's possible I had a read on them at the time, because I hate my flop play, but
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in the hand real quick. So
I'm crazy, guys. I am a bad heads-up player. Let's play.
all right. That was the worst sales job I've ever seen in my life. I see why you play poker and you're not a salesman for a living.
You
All right, so
called
you
me.
have Queen Jack 8-8, no suits. You min raise like it. I hate people that min raise. You min raise. Fumby 3 bets. You call. The flops Ace 10-3 rainbow. You have Queen Jack 8-8, so you have a gut shot. Fumby C bets, and you decide to he C bets 600 into 1,000, and you make it about 1,800, so about 3x his raise, and he goes and calls. So I'm gonna give my take on the hand, and then you can go ahead and give your take on the hand.
All right,
So obviously
awesome.
on the flop, this is an okay flop for you. You flop a backdoor quad draw, and you have a gut shot to the nuts. You have a backdoor.
Backdoor quad draw?
I go crazy on backdoor quad draws. So let's not. So you also have you being playing, so you run like God, I'm assuming as well. Obviously, you have $500 million from poker, so you can raise gut shots and hit because in the turn the king comes and
Ooh.
yeah, must be nice. This is how it feels, huh?
Yeah, man.
Just God.
Then you just gotta reel them in, choose your turn bet size, set up for a river jam. It's an easy game.
Jesus. All right, so you bet $3,200 into a $4,000 pot in the turn. You're about 145 big blinds deep at 5,100.
This hand is so
So
stupid.
he goes ahead and calls. The river is an offsuit 2, so the board's ace, king, 10, 3, 2. You have queen, jack, 8, 8, which is the nuts. Fumby checks. You go ahead and put them all in for about 9,000. He calls, and he shows. God, dude, what the?
I told you it was funny.
Oh my God, I didn't see the results earlier. Oh my God. How does it feel? Odd odds. I see, like, the only type of people that can beat Odd Odson in $100,000 pot are guys I don't want to be playing against because they run fucking amazing. And this is what we see here. We see the
That I really for the record, I really don't like my flop play, and I mean it's possible I had a read at the time, but it's definitely a spot where his range is crushing my range on that flop, and for me to even have a raising range there is pretty stupid, I think. But I guess we don't want to get into that. We don't want to get into deep strategy talk, so we'll just leave it as is, as a hand where I played and got lucky.
wait a sec. So you're saying you're saying on Ace 10x flop in a 3-bet pot heads up, you should have no raising range for against a continuation bet.
How many sets of aces are you going to have in your range?
I agree.
Well, there you go.
I don't want I don't want to talk about this right now.
All right, all right, all right, all right.
So we're gonna show a couple hands. This first hand here. Oh my God, what is this hand? You can see the hand right when I show it, right?
I can't see it right now.
Okay, I didn't have it up. Okay, so look at this hand. All right, so we're gonna go a couple hands. These hands are posted in the high stakes thread in Newsview Scots up on 2+2.
Okay. I'm
And
gonna let you do the intro to it while I go pee again.
bro, you need a piss bottle. Are you fucking kidding me?
I know. I'm sorry.
Let me show you what I got here when you come back, and I'll show you what you need to get. I got two things. You're gonna like one of them. So we're gonna go ahead and show this hand here, and this is a hand played at 5,100. All right, this hand played at 5,100, and oh my God, so it's 5,100 hand. Deldar rocking a 14 big blind stack. Motherfucker Deldar. Looks like a zoom hand. It's Deldar, Ike Haxton, Supernova 9, and Jeans 89. And I thought this was an interesting hand. So Deldar raises. He has a 14 motherfucking big blind stack. Deldar does 14 big blinds. At 1,500, a 14 big blind stack. All right, Sean's back. So
Oh,
okay,
there's so many people all in here. What happened?
I don't look at this. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the hand. Then we'll get into this hand. So this is the first hand. So.
Deldar has 17 big blinds. Big surprise.
14 fucking big blinds. It's
14.
retarded.
Wow.
So Deldar raises under the gun with Ace Queen Queen 6 with Ace Queen of Hearts, and Supernova 9 3-bets the button with King King 8-3 with King 8 of Hearts. And
You know who that is, right?
Jeans. What the fuck is Jeans doing? Jeans flat. What the fuck? So Deldar opens under the gun. He's got a 14 big blind stack. He's probably going to go all in. Gene's flat calls the 3-bet
Double
in the big
suited,
blind.
bro.
He's got 2, 7, 9, 10 double suited. Gene's, I think, was one of the biggest winners in a year of poker. And he has 50 big blinds to start the hand, which I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse. So he flat calls, and Deldar obviously flat calls as well. He saves himself $257. The flop is 2-7-4 with two spades and a 7 of hearts. So Ansky, Supernova 9, goes ahead and pots, obviously, with the kings. Gene's flops like God, he flops like literally one of the best possible flops for his hand. He flops top and bottom pair with a 10 high flush draw. Deldar makes a reluctant call for $257 more with his hand.
Yeah.
And the results don't necessarily. I hope Gene's didn't win. He won both. Are you fucking kidding me? God, dude, what an idiot. All right, so
Yeens.
what are your thoughts on this hand? So this what do you, yeah, go ahead, Sean, take over here, buddy.
I'd say it's pretty standard open by Deldar, pretty standard 3-bet by Ansky, pretty loose call by Yeens. I call them Yeens because Scandies always say like J's with Y's and then Y's with J's. So he's Yeens 89, just so you know.
We're not calling him that. No. We're not calling him.
So I would say that that's not a good call, but I don't know because Jeans has played a lot more hands. Like here's the thing about me and 6-max. I hate 6-max because there's multi-way pots, and it's just so difficult to like figure out exactly how you're supposed to play multi-way pots. So if he's doing this, I don't know. It's possible it's good because like he's got a lot more experience playing these games than I do, but I certainly wouldn't be calling there. I guess his idea is that he's never going to be like that bad getting in 3 ways with a double suited, like low, almost connected hand. So maybe he's just thinking like, you know, whatever, like let's gamble with 50 big blinds. Maybe like I really don't know what his thought process is. I can't. It's one of those plays that I'm pretty sure isn't good, but I guess it's probably not like super terrible either. Like it's not like it's not like he only has 18% equity against their ranges. He has like, you know, whatever.
All right, well,
30 or probably.
Whoops, I switched up to live stream. All right, hold on. So
that's the thing about PLO, right? Like a lot of plays that are like not good. And I'm not saying this isn't not good. I think it's not good, but I'm not saying it's definitely not good. But a lot of plays that are definitely not good are actually like not necessarily like
bad, right?
Right? Right? It's just like whatever, like gamble it up, you know?
All right, so guys listening out there, next time you're in the big blind and you're facing a 3-bet and you have 2, 7, 9, 10, we're going to advocate for a call because Gene's actually was a 39% favorite pre-flop. So
there you go.
Maybe he's a fucking genius. I'm gonna trial and error this. I'm gonna start calling 3-bets with 10, 7, 2, 7, 9, 10 when a spot where the 3-better's range is probably very strong.
Only when you can make 2 flushes.
Yeah, of course. And I'm gonna report back with results.
And only spades and diamonds.
I don't know about that. This hand. Okay, so we're gonna get into another hand here. I'm not sure actually how long this will be. Obviously, the Caramont podcast was like 2 hours and 47 minutes, which obviously I had fun, but I think so. My take on my podcast is you know if I do a live stream and it's 4 hours long, if someone wants to watch 4 hours, like that's cool. And people obviously, you know, most normal people don't have 4 hours to watch anything or listen to anything. So, you know, if they want to listen to 55 minutes, they can listen to 55 minutes. But
right.
I don't necessarily mind putting out more content or longer content, and it's just like, you know, if someone wants to listen to it all, that's cool. You know, if you only want to listen to 30 minutes, like, you know, go ahead and listen to 30 minutes, like turn it off, you know what I mean? So I don't necessarily mind if I do podcasts that are a bit longer.
I like the some of the comments here. Backdoor quad draw. Martin really liked that. Embrace the YOLO. Anything with do 7 is a snap call. I like that. I like that strategy a lot.
Well, I'm all about embracing the YOLO, and I'm pretty sure that's a young gentleman who recently posted he pulled a 21-year-old Lefort, and he posted a shirtless photo of himself on Twitter.
Nice.
And he claims, this motherfucker claims he got paid as a dare $10 to take off his shirt.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the play, right? You always say
Yeah,
like somebody else was like, wanted to see a picture, whatever. You make up a story.
yeah. It's like me posting a shirtless photo of you and being like, "Oh, I dared him the $10 to take off his shirt," and Lefort was like reluctantly just showed me his abs, you know? Like,
Maybe we should do some. What about like you said that somebody had questions or something?
oh yeah. So my friend, a friend of the podcast, also run at once coach and mid stakes to high stakes PLO player, Isil Droon,
Is
had
it
a
rude?
couple had a couple questions, and he asks, how did you go from sitting at mid stakes heads up to beast moding 5100 deep? What were some of the was there a turning point? Was there like a light bulb moment? Like how exactly how did that happen for you?
Just ran good. No, I don't know. I put a lot of like I don't really like I don't know when you look at all the stars regs that people think of when they think of stars regs. I think like I'm not really in that group because I don't play as much as they do. So I like especially when I was learning the game, my approach was like to spend more time learning the game than to actually play the game. So like the thing about playing the game is that you develop a ton of biases in your strategy if you're not spending time away from the game. So you end up basically playing a lot of spots because of the way that spot has come up in your last 20,000 hands because you play 2,000 hands a day. So it's like you develop these strategies based on playing, and that's not my approach at all. I'm kind of the opposite. In fact, every time I play, I try to make sure I'm not making plays because I am, running good or running bad. But when I was learning the game and moving up, a lot of it was just because I was basically spending a lot of time away from the game, getting good, and figuring things out on my own. And then I would play. And instead of just sitting at the computer for 10 hours and playing, which in a lot of ways people think that you get better by playing, but in my opinion, I think if you're not actually spending time away from the game getting better, a lot of time when you just keep playing, you potentially getting worse if you're basing all your strategies based off of your experiences playing.
That's a very interesting way to look at it, and I would agree. I would actually disagree with that for some people, and obviously,
Okay, yeah, maybe it's a subjective thing.
yeah, I think so. Because I mean, I know for me, I got better by just playing, like just putting in the hands and you know what I
I
mean.
think for me personally, like playing is exhausting for me. I've got like so many thoughts going on. I'm just thinking like it's stressful for me to like try to figure out what my play is here with my strategy. And I find that I've got so much going on that like I don't even really learn much from playing because I'm too busy trying to figure out what to do. And then I just do it and play and make those choices. But then afterwards, it's not like I take much away from it. If anything, I'm just like, exhausted from applying my mind. But it's not until I slow things down and have time to actually look at hands, look at my database, and be like, oh, okay, maybe this is an interesting spot that I need to figure out what I should be doing with my range. What should my bet size be here? What should this be? If I only have 15 seconds to think about it in game, I'm not taking anything away from that spot. If anything, I get called by a hand and I think, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have bluffed that spot, and I take away that emotional response from getting hero called or from getting a fold, and that emotional response might dictate what I will do in that spot in the future, which is something I don't want happening. I want I want my game plan to be purely based off of what I think is red play, not because my last five bluffs have worked. That's not the reason why I'm going to pull the sixth trigger.
Well, I think people are going to want to have Lefort host this podcast and talk about things like that from now on because everything you just said, I think people are going to hear what you just said. I think the people who are better are going to hear what you just said and really think about it
Yeah.
as far as their and think about how they can like when you just said that to me, that's totally different from what I do. So obviously I'm hearing this, I'm thinking about, well, how can I adjust, what my current approach is as far as balancing away from the table and playing.
Hmm.
But a lot of people are going to hear what you just said and be like, I have no idea what the fuck he just said. Because, and for people that for someone that just heard what you just said, and if you don't have any idea what you just said, save this time span, and when you can figure out what he just said and figure out what exactly that meant, that's when you know you're starting to improve as a poker player.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I like that or that.
Because I mean, if you told me that when I was like, playing 50 cent dollar, I would have been like, or 50 cent dollar no limit, I've been like, yeah, bro, like, okay, like I would have just like, yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Like there's the people that the agreeers are always like, oh yeah, yeah, like, you know what I mean, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, and
Yeah.
actually, okay, I got a question. I've noticed this. I noticed something this recently as I was hanging out with my friends. So
All right.
when I would tried to make a lot of friends, I was paying attention to someone I knew that had a lot of friends, and I noticed they did three things. They smiled a lot. They they smiled a lot. They always were like kind of energetic and fun, and they always agreed with whatever you said. And I was like, I never did that before. I was just like, when someone said something and if I didn't agree with it, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think so, or whatever. But I
Right.
tried doing this for 2 months, and I made more friends than I've ever made in my fucking life in these 2 months. I just smiled. I'm like, yeah, dancing. I'm getting down.
Yeah.
I'm dancing. You know what I mean? I'm having a good time. They're like,
Did
oh,
you,
like this is so much fun. I'm like, this is the most fun I've ever fucking had.
did you
And
supplement this experience with drugs? I feel like drugs would have made it easier to just smile and say and agree with everything that everybody had to say.
wait a second, let me think about this.
There
Yeah, maybe it might have
you
been a
go.
little.
There you go.
Might have been a bit of this, bit of that, but I tried this, and it turns out this works. And now one of my friends was in town recently, and I noticed this is exactly how she was, and I got tilted. But what do you know a lot of people that are like that just like agree? They're like, you love it, they love it. You hate it, they hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think like those people are, yeah, but you want somebody like you want your friends to be genuine, right? So when they disagree with something that like I want my friends to, I enjoy having debates, kind of like talking stuff out a bit.
Hmm.
I think it depends on whether it's an important thing or not, right? Like if it's something where it's like you are, it's an important topic, and your friend is like, I don't believe in abortion, and you do believe in abortion, then you shouldn't just be like, you know what, you're right, fuck it, like fuck abortion, or like like important topics, you should probably stand up for what you believe in. But if it's like something where it's just like, oh, I like the Toronto Raptors, and you're impartial towards the Toronto Raptors, but if this person thinks that you're like, you enjoy the Toronto Raptors, then you can be friends together. Then yeah, like, oh, okay, the Toronto Raptors, they're cool.
Well, I'm definitely not saying this is how you keep friends. Although I did try that too. So there was this group of friends I had where, they were like kind of a bit crazy, and
Okay.
but there was a specific reason I was hanging out with them, and I just tried it. Like anytime they said something, I was just like, yeah. I danced all the time. I nonstop dance. I just like smile. I'm like, yeah,
It sounds like you were pretty awesome. I wish I hadn't met you at this point. That would have been awesome.
yeah. So it turns out they really started to like me because it's people. If you like, just don't. If you just like everything that someone says, like, not everyone's really like on a level where they actually are aware that you're an agreeer. But
Yeah, I see.
like some people just aren't aware of that. Like I never was aware of it until I actually like saw, like tried actually like taking in what people like. What are what is this person doing? Like why does everybody like them?
You started bluff catching. You're like, oh, this guy's an agreeer, and he's just saying yes to everything I say.
Yeah. Like there was this girl I was hanging out with. I took her to Ultra Music Fest 2013, and everyone like Stinger picked us up. Him and his girlfriend and her friend picked us up from the airport or picked us up from the hotel we were staying at, and they were like, "Man, I really like her so much." I was like, "What are you talking about? She's terrible. Like, how can you guys like her?" But she was like that exact type, smiled, happy, agreeer.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't fucking believe it.
It's fun, right? Because it's just like you're gonna have a good time hanging out with them, and you don't have to deal with like conflict.
Yeah, I guess that's true. You're right. There was a specific reason we actually stopped talking now that I'm thinking more about it, but I'm not allowed to talk about what exactly that happened for another 7 years, Stinger says. So it was something that happened at Stinger's condo.
Oh man, so he gave it like there's a 10-year grace period where you're not allowed to talk about it?
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure I'm never allowed to talk about it. But I told Ryan that I'm going to talk about it in 7 years, and I'm definitely going to bring it up when he's going to be the next guest on the podcast. I'm 100% bringing this up, and I'm going to see what
Okay, good.
it's going to be live, and I'm going to see what he says because it's going to
I'm
be fun.
looking forward to that podcast.
This was one of the most epic. This night I'm describing was one of the most epic nights I've ever been experienced in my life.
In Vancouver?
This was in Fort Lauderdale. He's got a condo in Fort Lauderdale, and so after we were at Ultra, which is in Miami, we went to I stayed at his house for a couple weeks, and we had an epic night. I told the girl about it, and she like freaked out. So, or if you use your own imagination from that point on.
All right. I want to know more.
You're never gonna know more, actually.
Okay. Well.
Sorry. I mean, I might. I'm not gonna tell you in Vegas if I see you, of course.
Okay. You can tell me when we're raging at EDC.
Okay, that sounds cool. Chuck Bass, 2+2 user, says Lefort is ridiculously good looking. No homo.
All right.
What nationality are you? Like, are you
I'm
like what? What are you?
100% Chinese.
You're what?
I said I'm 100% Chinese. No, I'm just like a boring Canadian mutt. I just have I guess my mom's like half British, half English. My dad is he's fully French Canadian. So I'm just kind of like a bunch of those pioneers that came over to North America, a couple hundred years ago.
And then
I came along.
And then you inject 6,000 calories a day and 55 hours a week spent at the gym, and this is what you get, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
It's like. So speaking of the gym, recently we were talking, and you were mentioning you were going to start a blog about, because you get so many fitness questions from your friends, from other poker players, all the time. How can I do this? How can I do that? You would answer them, but you'd answer them so many times. So you wrote these two epic, in my opinion, amazing blog posts. I've shared them with friends that don't even play poker just because I'm like, check this out. Now, do you have any, what's your thinking on that? Like, so, for anyone that you can find it on Lefort's Twitter. It's at Lefortments. You can go to my Twitter, one, and I linked him in this. I tagged him in the podcast link. If you want to go on his Twitter, the link to his blog is going to be on there. And now, so
WordPress.com.
What is it? Sorry, say it again.
Lefortaments.wordpress.com.
Okay, that should be easy enough to remember. I wasn't sure if it was a bunch of numbers or anything. So tell us more about that.
Basically, yeah. I mean, I get a lot of questions, and I'm really like passionate about coaching and teaching people stuff when I know stuff. I've always been really good at figuring out where people stumble, because when I stumble, I remember it and then carry that through. So, for like bros trying to get bigger, or people trying to lose fat, or things like that, I've been there, and I know what kind of was my stumbling blocks, and I kind of really enjoy helping other people get through those. But I've always found with poker, it's always been frustrating that it's obviously mega negative EV to just help people get better at poker, even though I'd love to be able to do that because I really enjoy that. So I decided, kind of another aspect of life where I kind of have some experiences with and some knowledge to drop is with fitness and weightlifting and stuff like that. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's really fun for me. If it would definitely be my career choice if it was financially lucrative, which it's definitely not. But if it was a cool thing and you could just make a ton of money being a kick-ass personal trainer, I think I would be a kick-ass personal trainer. So yeah, I guess this blog is just kind of a way to release some of that energy.
Yeah, I've actually had a few people tell me they read it, and I warned them. I was like, it's kind of intense because when you read this, even me, I mean, I work out all the time. I play basketball every day. Even me reading this, I'm just like, this is fucking intense. So I would imagine for most people out there who are noobs when it comes to working out, most poker players I know live online, I mean, most don't work out. I think it seems like the more successful poker players eventually realize that health and fitness does matter more, so they kind of are into it. But for the majority, I mean, that's a super small percentile of actual people that play poker. For the most part,
Yeah.
people are some type of recreational level, small stakes level, and these guys don't. They don't really think about it too much, or they're not into it. Like, what
Mhm.
are some tips? What are some like fitness tips you can give to someone that maybe wants to take a step or get in a bit better shape, but is just really fucking lazy?
I think a lot of it is just kind of, and I said this in one of my blog posts. A big thing is like being honest with yourself and where you're at right now, and really evaluating where you're at. And because without knowing that, it's really difficult to give somebody advice as to, what to do and how to do what they want to do. So if a dude wants to put on muscle and he's only eating 1,000 calories a day, that's going to be really easy. But if another dude of the same frame is eating 2,000 calories a day, it's going to be more difficult because clearly, he's more, his body type is less conducive to gaining weight. So it really depends on like where you're at, what you're doing. So like how many calories you're eating, what your exercise level is at, what's your body fat, what are you trying to do? These are the things that before you like want to make changes, you need to evaluate these things because then you can actually set up some framework and be like, okay, well, I'm 160 pounds. I want to be 180 pounds and look like this guy in a magazine. It's like okay, well, to do that, what do you need to do? Well, I need to lift some weights. I need to bulk up and lose a little bit of body fat. Okay, well, once I want to do that, how do I do that? And break it. And then you can break things down a bit.
Okay, so let me go back to the first question I asked you. This is
Sorry,
for
maybe I like deflected. I don't know.
this is for lazy people,
Oh,
lazy
okay.
poker players, lazy motherfuckers. These guys they're not doing any of that.
Okay, well that's completely different because now it's psychological. These people don't need advice as to what to do in the gym. They need advice as to like how to develop motivation to go to the gym, right?
There we
So
go.
for me, the big thing was like when poker got really, really good for me and I was making a ton of money, it didn't change my lifestyle. Like maybe yeah, I could afford like some nicer clothes and stuff, but it didn't make my life much better really. Like but when I started getting healthier and I started appreciating the things that I was putting into my body, and when I started going to the gym every day, I started seeing a ton of improvements just in overall life enjoyment, just from a ton of different things. I mean, and you're more confident, you enjoy yourself more in social settings. You feel great on a daily basis. You don't get headaches. You don't get sick as much. You don't like all of these things that you don't. A lot of people that are lazy don't really think about because they haven't really experienced what it's like to be like, maybe super healthy or whatever. So I guess like that's my biggest tip that I would give is that you need to develop that motivation, I think, and you don't really get that until you start. I don't even know how to develop that. I guess just maybe once you start getting a taste of it and seeing some improvements in whatever areas you want to improve in, it's in my opinion you're gonna enjoy that more than the improvements you see from moving up to from 510 to 1020 PLO. Like who cares? Like you know, but life improvements are far more enjoyable for me. That makes sense.
Oh my God, you're honestly way too smart for that answer.
Sorry.
I'm sure you gotta imagine me as like 23 years old, or not. I wasn't lazy. I like to work all the time, but the people I know that I'm speaking of that might find an answer in this question. I think the best answer is like they want to know how to maybe cook breakfast. Cook breakfast is
Okay.
a step.
All right.
Maybe they want like a little workout. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to put together like a little workout with my drill sergeant girlfriend, who was actually like a sergeant. So I'm gonna put together like a little noob workout that a poker player could do at home, maybe in between a session, maybe
Okay.
when they get up. And I'm gonna actually get some input from you on like a quick 5-10 minutes, something quick that get your body moving type of thing. And then I'm gonna have my girlfriend pound me, make me do it, whip me into shape. So we're gonna have I'm gonna come out with that. I'm gonna come out with that pretty soon because I
Uh,
feel like these are ideas I had originally for things I wanted to write about. I think about when I was 24 years old, 25 years old. I'm 28 now. When I was playing poker and like my diet was fast food, always candy. I never cooked. There was no breakfast. Like it was just so
yeah.
terrible. I didn't want it to be terrible, but at the time, you don't like you're 25, you don't care. It's like whatever. What's it matter, right? And like
Right.
I wished it could be better, but it just wasn't. And I feel like, you know, I am always in poker. I was always in poker forums, poker websites. I wasn't really going anywhere else. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are the same way, that are, only going to poker sites. And if there was a link that was like, hey, like check this out, to maybe improve yourself a bit in those areas, like
Right.
you know what I mean, that they might actually do that. And obviously, I think I have like I'm starting to have a platform where I can get information like that out there for people to see.
Yeah.
So, I definitely, hope to be able to do some type of things like that, in the future, because
Yeah, for sure. Kind of collaborate a bit on that. That would be fun.
yeah, I think so. Obviously, like you said, this is one of the things you did that because, you wanted to help people. Like obviously with poker, as you said, you can't, if you help your friend, if you help D to the MFI get better, like he could potentially be taking money away. I'm sure you probably did help each other get better, but you're probably taking a money, if you're playing six max, you're taking money away directly from your competitors. If you help a guy move up from 510 to 2550,
Yeah.
like that's taking money away from you. And with your,
Right.
with your fitness stuff, now you can actually have it's a cool way for you to give back and
Oh
help
yeah,
improve
for
people.
sure. Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly the way I'm kind of looking at it. I guess the tough part is, and this like the last 5 minutes of you talking actually kind of opens my eyes up to this a little bit too, is that I don't know who's reading my blog, so I don't know like who my audience, what I'm directing. Like I'm assuming basically when I say all those things, I kind of like direct it towards somebody who's already like kind of going to the gym a bit, read stuff or whatever, and they okay, time to get serious with I want to do this, and that's kind of what my blog is directed to. But if it's like if there's a lot of people that are reading that like just don't go to the gym and eat like shit and are like, okay, what are a few tips for me to improve my life a bit? Then I should probably do a very different type of blog article towards those types of people. So maybe that's something I'll look into.
Well, I can tell you, I talked to two people about your blog post, specifically more, sorry, a bit more in depth. And the first one is somebody who eats okay, doesn't really go to the gym, and their feedback on it was, "Wow, that's really good stuff, but I have it bookmarked and I'm going to finish reading it later." Translation: I,
Okay.
I might not actually, it's just too much to take in.
Right.
I need something a bit beginner. And another person said, like, there's some really good advice on there. I want to incorporate it all into my life. I just don't know what to do or where to start as far as going from that point. You know what I mean? And I think, if I read that and I really want to take it in, I think I could do something like that because I'm already active. I already
Right.
made the
Yeah.
attempt to change. You know what I mean? But
It's kind of like when I was making it, like the audience was directed. I was assuming it was somebody like you who's like plays basketball a bunch, is active, goes to the gym sometimes, tries to eat good, and like that's kind of who I was thinking about. But I guess like some of those people that just don't really go to the gym much or don't really, especially poker players who are kind of lazy. Yeah, I really kind of should probably reframe the blog a little bit, or at least like think about how to approach it like towards those people as well, because I think like you said, like if it's just too complicated, then it's just like not going to have any effect on them. Like some of their changes that they need to make are a little more simplistic as opposed to like fine tuning how many carbs they're eating,
yeah,
So like but yeah, I don't know. Well, one thing I want to do is make it interactive. So I've considered doing things like opening up things to like, give me a one-page description of where you're at and where you want to be, and I can like help you get there, right?
I really
And I
like
think
that
that would
idea.
be cool because then your buddy who's like the second person you talked about who isn't quite as healthy or whatever. I can like kind of use him as a subject, and all of the people that are in a similar situation like him will kind of benefit from that type of blog article, I think.
I think with something like that, if that's what you want, which I think is awesome, you need to put that in the first couple sentences, put that in the title, tweet about, either just be a bit more out there about it, I mean, like on Twitter and like that. And obviously, like, I'm gonna let people know as well that I talk to, because, I share the content as well. And a lot of people I always ask people to give me feedback on stuff I might, put out or my podcast. And like I said, people have been talking to me about it. So I think that'll be a great idea, if you can, get that out there, like let them know. You know what I mean? Like some people say like, hey, message me, I'll help you. But people are shy, or they don't know the person, they're a bit intimidated, they don't really feel comfortable like telling some guy they might not know, like, hey, this is what I am, I'm a piece of shit right now, like,
You're right.
you know what I mean, like, no one, it's just not a very comfortable subject for most people to talk about.
Yeah,
So I think, but you might get some guys that are already like some pretty active, but I think the most
yeah,
part people are just going to be too scared to talk about it really.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So
for sure. No, I look forward to doing stuff like that. I'm kind of excited to see where the blog can go. I've been happy about the fact that it's already had like a few thousand hits, so people are actually reading it, which is nice.
it's pretty sick actually. So I know people have been retweeting it. Have we shared it at all on 2+2?
No, you know what's really funny? Um, I put it in like the health and fitness, like whatever low content, wherever I thought it fit, and it literally didn't get any. There was like one or two people that put like too long didn't read, bro, or something, and then they just kept on talking about whatever they talk about.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like I get 2+2ers ask me all the time about the health and fitness forum, and I'm just like, I mean, there's more to working out than starting strength. Okay, like just going into the gym to squat 225 pounds 5 times a few times, and then benching whatever 5 times a few times, and then leaving and being like, oh, I'm fucking working out hard. Like it's not. I've never been a huge fan of that approach to starting out, getting working out, and that's like everything you read in health and fitness is like, yo, bro, I want to lose fat. Like, let's do starting strength. I want to do this. I want to do that. And there's just a lot of misconceptions in there. There's a lot of I don't know if it's because like maybe it's because like a nerdy forum has like a section of like bros. Maybe they all just have a little bit too much bro ego, I think, and they're very like they have their ideas about things, and that
We're
just so I've never
talking
been
about
able to
two
like
plus two right now, right?
I've never what's that?
We're talking about 2+2 health and fitness right now.
Yeah, health and fitness on 2+2. So people often ask me about it. I'm just like, I can't really comment much about their advice. But as far as like, my only advice is like, there's more to, like, I wouldn't really be using it as your like source of information on things. That's all. I kind of use the like analogy of if you want to learn poker, you're gonna go to a bodybuilding forum and see how they talk about poker strategy. So like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to be talking amongst a bunch of poker nerds about like how to get big, bro. So
I mean, I think Reddit's the best place for anything. Reddit's like
yeah.
for all those things. I think it's a really good place to go for.
Well, what's really interesting about like fitness is that the type of people that are really active and really fit generally are not often the type of people to sit down and write about it online on a computer. These people are too busy being in the gym and playing sports and having fun to be. I mean, there's a ton of good articles out there, but what I'm saying is that like it's different than like poker players, for example. 2+2, 7 or 8 years ago was a great source of information for strategy because these were online poker nerds on an online poker forum, constantly being online and talking about shit. But you don't really have that with fitness, Like you have like these like forums of like guys that spend a lot of time on computers talking about like what they do at the gym, and it's just like those aren't really the guys that are at the top of people that are working out all the time. You know what I mean? Like those aren't really necessarily the best sources of information for how to figure out how to get big or how to do this or how to do that. So I always tell people that like a lot of times if you go to the gym all the time, make friends at your gym, man. Like you see a guy with a body that you want, like people are friendly at the gym. Like if you don't interrupt their workout, you might end up making a friend or a workout partner and learning a whole lot. But I would refrain from getting all of your information from a poker forum when it comes to health and fitness.
Well,
Yeah.
I can speak on that last thing you just said. I have more 30-year-old black friends right now from playing basketball all the time than they can't see your hair yet. Don't worry, when you talk, they'll see it. But I've made so many friends playing basketball. It's one of the reasons I started playing was I wanted. Damn, your hair is sick. What the fuck do you have a hat on for? Take your hat off again. Show the thing.
Because I have hat head. It's like all over the place.
How do you have hair like? Hold on, talk again. I don't want to talk. I just want to look. Hold on. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I tried to get my hair like that. Didn't look like that.
Yeah, I've always been lucky with hair. I have like every time I go get a haircut, the stylist is always like, "You have amazing hair," like blah blah blah. And they have to like it's really thick, so they gotta like thin it out.
Jesus.
And
This is what it's
that's,
like, guys. Nice hair, in shape, debatably good looking, debatably a good heads up player, money, $500 million bankroll, 6,000 calories a day, eats 25 meals a day, and we can't talk about women. I want to talk about it. I know things. I want to say things. I want to talk, but I can't talk about it.
save it for future. Once we get more comfortable with each other and the audience, and we'll save it for
Yeah, I
future.
don't think we're going to talk. I don't think we're going to talk about it. But let's just say you can make some assumptions from and all the things I just said. That
We'll let the people wonder.
it's a mystery. We gotta leave them. We gotta leave them a little bit mysterious. Let's Oh yeah, Isle Drune had one more question for you.
All right, I gotta pee again. I'm sorry. I drank so
Jesus
much coffee.
fucking Christ! Are you kidding?
No, I'm not. I have small bladder syndrome.
Wait, where's your bottle at? Seriously, I'm gonna. This is kind of gross, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to improve. So for people out there, wondering, how can I make more money? What can I do to maybe take my game to the next level? Well, I'm gonna tell you guys how to take your game to the next level. So you go to the store and you invest in this trusty Gatorade bottle, empty. Now this one I actually modified where it has this lid, right? So now I'm not gonna stand up, but like let's just picture this. Let's just let's just picture this is happening right here. We're waiting for the fort to come back.
What the hell are
So
you doing?
I'm showing you something more effective and how someone can improve their win rate. So let's just say this is underneath and perfect. It goes in and
All
then you're
right.
set. You're done. Also, one
Yeah,
more
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
This is a new addition. This is fucking gross. Hold on a second. So this is actually something new I got, and I found it very effective. It's actually up my win rate about 2 big blinds per 100. And so
That is a sizable increase in win rate.
yeah, it's sick. So this is the jug.
Is there pee in it right now?
No, it's apple juice.
Joe Ingram's pee, everybody. Joe Ingram's pee.
Dude, I've had YouTube videos. In my prep bet video, I showed a bottle that had pee in it. It's pee bottle. What
Well,
the?
just in case people are confused, I think for your next podcast, you should prepare to actually show them how to do it so that they know how to do it.
What is this, a porn site? What are we, a porn podcast now? What the?
Porncast.
Are we a
Joe
porn-
Ingram 1's PLO Porncast.
Well, me and my girlfriend were thinking about joining a webcam site, and we're gonna have sex with each other and get tips from people.
Are you serious?
Well, by
Is that like
thinking,
a thing?
and by thinking, that's a thing. Yeah, it's a big thing.
Really?
If you're poor, you can just get naked on webcam or fuck someone on webcam for money. Yes.
Well, that's like a thing for like girls, but I didn't know it was a thing for guys.
Well, Stars Reg Problems is actually getting. He's probably going to get excited about this idea because now that he knows that he can jack off on cam for money. But yeah, guys can make money doing this. I don't actually know how much profitable it is for guys, but what you do is you have a girl and you guys fuck on the cam and you guys get tips and get paid and get money.
Really?
That's sick. Like if 21-year-old me would have been doing this a lot. But
I mean, it gives people an option. If you're just like thinking about shot taking with your whole bankroll, you have something to fall back
that's
on, right?
true. Maybe Yorubu, who I did some podcast about his prop bet that he quit,
Yeah.
and maybe you. Nah, he doesn't do that. Never mind. Never mind. He's just he just gave up. It was funny. So today I was at the gym. I played for about 6 hours of basketball. I was sore. I was tired. My last one-on-one game, the 15th game, I'm playing this big black guy. He's pretty strong, but we're playing a 21. The score is 18-4, right? And you know what? I was thinking about it. What would Yorubu do? Well, Yorubu would fucking give up. He'd quit. Why he wouldn't try to come back. Why would he try to come back, right?
Yeah.
And I realized something.
He'd ask people to flip for it.
Yeah, I realized something. I don't want to be Yorubu. I don't want to be him. I'm not giving up. I'm fucking Brazilian. I don't give up. I didn't give up. You want to know what happened? I
But
came back and I won.
nice.
21
Isn't
to
that
4.
like an amazing feeling?
What? Yeah, it was great. He was a little out of shape and he was pretty winded, but
Yeah.
like I did it for my girlfriend. I thought about her. I thought about how Yorubu quit, and I didn't want to quit. I could have gave up. I could have just let this guy win. But I'm not
Yeah,
Yorubu. I'm not quitting.
good for
Like,
you.
what kind of motherfucker does a 45-day prep bet and quits after 9 days? Honestly.
Well, personally, I think that you should maybe follow that up for all of the prop bet followers with an interesting prop bet yourself. That's what I think you should do. I think you should save the prop bet world.
Wait, oh my God. There's a lot of there's a lot of interesting comments going on about you, but in it's terms of
Yeah, I see that. We've ignored all comments. I feel like we should.
we'll comment on some. Um, used to be actually I'm going to talk about Run It Once coaching in a bit, but what you said about doing the prep bet, I actually might do. I actually kind of want to do the 45-day prep bet, but then again I have to be out of the country for 45 days. I'm in the USA, and it's a difficult prep bet, and I don't know if I necessarily want to do it. If I could get like 3-to-1 odds, I might try it, but
Yeah.
I'm not. I wouldn't do it 2-to-1, and I'm not really excited about doing it at all. Like, I've already like done. Obviously, Yorubu failing this just made me playing like 500, 400. I played 450,000 hands in 1 month. I mean, that just, you know what I mean? Like that makes it even more sick that he couldn't even, last that. But actually,
Like, I don't know how the hell you did that.
I was
I mean,
hungry. I was motivated. I wanted to be rich. That's what happens when
yeah.
you want to be
Were you
rich.
single when you did that?
What?
Were you single when you did that?
Of course.
There you go.
Yeah.
Our theorem has been proved.
Yeah. The only fitness advice I want from the Fort is how many grams he's on per week. Is that grams of what?
Grams of what? I don't know.
I'm guessing maybe it means steroids, which isn't necessarily
I
in
don't think you
grams.
measure steroids in grams, do you? It's not like you
No,
smoke steroids.
no, you inject steroids and it's in cc's, but milliliters, whatever. Let's not talk about that. And
Okay.
Curbinator says, May, I'd have sex with all of you in a manly way. I mean,
That's what Curbinator said?
yeah.
Where are you getting these comments?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting these in the high stakes PLO thread, my favorite thread in the world, of course.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah,
So
it is a fun thread, for
Curbinator
sure.
has 34,000 posts. He probably goes
Oh,
both ways.
fair.
I mean, anyone that's got 34,000 posts probably has sex with men and women. That's just,
Why do you have so many posts?
I don't know. I don't
I've been
know.
on 2+2 for like 10 years, and I have like, I don't even know, like 2,000 posts or something.
You're a man of quality, not quantity, clearly.
Yes, absolutely. That's
In
that's
all in
no,
all forms of life.
yes, absolutely.
Let's address some of these YouTube comments. Stop hating on Yorubu. I don't hate Yorubu. I love Yorubu. Yorubu is one of my favorite people in the world. I'm just pissed off he quit. He told the Brazilian poker forum, sell your car, sell your women, sell your drugs, sell your parents. This guy told these people that look up to him, to sell your shit and bet on me, and then he fucking quit. I'm sorry. It's not hating. I'm saying it like it is. Someone's got to call it like it is. I'm calling it like it is. I love Yorubu. He's one of my
Did he
favorite
give
people.
it a crack? Like, did he play and then just fell behind, or what?
He was ahead of the pace. He's a tilt maniac. He had no plan. He went into it with a bad plan. I suggested a plan to him. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to do his own plan, and it was just I was just upset that he advocated to his fellow countrymen to sell everything you have. Like if I tell my friends that sell your stuff, then I don't know.
You're not gonna give up. You're gonna be there till the end. But whatever.
Yeah. So all right, let's go over some YouTube comments in the live stream. We actually
Sure.
had 55 viewers earlier, which I think that's more than I had for the WCG live stream I did. So
Boom.
that might
There you go.
be a current record. So all right, let's go over some comments here.
Lefort, do you
Is
still
this
play
the,
Heads Up Cash? Yes.
what was the question?
Mr. Excellent asked if I still play Heads Up Cash. The answer is yes.
Okay, so also, is this
Oh,
Lefort?
he's asking no limit Heads Up Cash. No, I don't.
Where are you seeing this?
People are worse at PLO, way worse. So
Oh.
don't play Hold'em.
Oh, okay. Oh.
PLO is so much more interesting. Every time I play Hold'em now, I just get so bored within like 8 minutes that I just can't play it.
I haven't actually played Hold'em in a couple years, so.
It's wild how boring it is, but I'm sure like for guys that are playing high stakes and stuff, it's still super interesting because they're playing against other good players and like I guess like for me, I don't know. There's just more stuff going on in PLO strategy, I think, but I don't know.
No, I mean,
It could just be that I never really got super great at Hold'em. Like I got good at evaluating Hold'em. I never was like, willing to sit 1-2 with people playing heads up Hold'em.
I'm just updating the stream people
Oh,
that
Reg Problems is watching.
who?
Reg Problems.
That's my friend.
You almost released it. You almost said who it was.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not an idiot. Everyone wants to know who he is. Definitely not.
Isn't it Kevin?
What?
Isn't it Kevin McPhee?
Are you kidding right now? I don't want. I'm not talking about that.
How amazing would that be if it actually was him?
Dude, that guy is what has to be one of the biggest fucking dorks I've ever seen in my life. Like, what are you doing? You're arguing. He's arguing for like 100 messages on Twitter with reg problems. Like, like you don't even know who this guy is. You're arguing 100. Like what? Like, oh my god, I don't even want to talk about that. Whatever, whatever.
I just said it because I was hoping it would get reg problems started. Like when he gets going, he's entertaining.
I know. I've always tried to advocate to him. I always try to advocate to him to be as crazy as possible. But sometimes he's a bit nuts. I'm like, yo, you might want to calm down a bit. But
that kind of gets him followers, right? It gives him motivation to continue doing what he does.
Well, when you think about it,
he crosses lines, absolutely. Lines are crossed for sure.
For people that don't know what we're talking about a Twitter account go by the names of Stars Reg Problems, and he is one of the most interesting people in poker that I follow on Twitter. He says very controversial things. He's not a fan of tournament players. He's not a fan of Daniel Negreanu. He's not a fan of Jason Mercier's hair. He's not a fan of Kevin McPhee. Is that his last name?
Something like that, I think.
I'm not sure. I don't tournament players. Yeah, he says some controversial things. He says some racist things sometimes, some homophobic things sometimes. If you don't like those things, don't follow him. But it's interesting.
There was another question from Isildred. I don't think we ever got to that.
Oh yeah, Isildred. Why do you play so fucking slow?
Oh,
exactly.
It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I just fucking there's a lot going on. I'm not a grinder that's just like clicking buttons. Like I'm trying to think about the situation more, and that's why I can't play a lot of tables. I oftentimes have a lot of other tables from Stars too. I guess sometimes if we're playing Zoom and the Zoom pool is 7 players and most of us have 2 or 3 tables, I might also be playing heads up on a Euro set or something, and that Zoom table is going to get a lot of timing out for me, unfortunately. Not timing out, but they're going to have to wait.
That makes sense. But also, this is something I wanted to talk to you about as well, but he said, is this Lefort who was a coach for Run It Once? So you were a coach for Run It Once. You're not a coach for Run It Once anymore, correct?
Right. I do have a few, 2 more videos to be released, my kind of finale videos that I did for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically I started becoming a coach for them as I started playing PLO, and I cared less about kind of releasing Hold'em information. And basically I kept doing it until I got to the point where I just kind of felt bad making Hold'em videos because obviously these people, pay money for this site, and I just was getting further and further distant from playing Hold'em. And I still think my videos were great content. It's just that I really struggled forcing myself to do them and study Hold'em when I didn't even play the game anymore. So it was it kind of became a bit of a hassle, and also just as I got better at PLO, my hourly, kept increasing to the point where making these videos for Run It Once for however much money just super wasn't worth it anymore. So I enjoyed it. It was fun, but yeah, I'm definitely not going to be making any PLO videos though. I get people asking me every day, "Can you make a PLO video for Run It Once?" No, bro, I can't.
What are your thoughts on PLO content, Run It Once itself, PLO strategy videos? Obviously, like you said, you quit playing No Limit, you started making videos, which is kind of how training videos came to be anyway. They stopped playing poker and they started making videos. So what are your thoughts on that whole industry, what it's doing to the games, that type of thing?
I think that there's more I think that people blame that industry too much for being a part of ruining the games. I think it obviously did have a part because people are watching these videos and getting better. But I think people don't realize that 90% of people that are watching videos on these sites, like, yeah, they might take a little bit away from it, but a lot of them are just watching kind of for entertainment and to convince themselves that they're doing some studying in their game. It's not like they're actually doing a ton of like breaking down their database to like figure out these spots and like learning. Like, I don't think that it's had as much of an impact as people make it out to have had. I think the reason games have gotten worse is because simply people either lose their money or they get better. Like, obviously. So the level of competition in poker is always going to keep increasing because people are either losing their money or they're getting better. The only outside like impact you have are additional poker players coming in to the realm of poker, whether it be businessmen that are rich or new people trying to play, and those people are dwindling. The game was huge, blew up 10 years ago, and has just slowly gotten to the point where everybody's been exposed to it, and you're not going to have an outburst of businessmen come in and just make the games great anymore. So the games are always getting worse because of that factor. You have everybody losing money or getting better at poker. So the people that are winning money have everybody else kind of coming up to speed constantly. So I really think that that's the main principles for why the games have gotten tougher. I don't think it's like, oh, everybody got good because Phil Galfond started making hundreds of videos. I think that it helped a little bit, I guess, but I don't think that that's like, what ruined the games.
Well, I can tell you that there was a time, when I was recovering from my rage times, and I might not have been playing the best I've ever been playing. And there was one day when this is maybe about August, something like that, and I was watching a Phil Galfond deep video, and he was talking about something that I didn't do at all. I don't want to talk about what it is, but he was talking about this, and I was like, wow, let me try this. And I started trying what he said. I never would have tried what he said. I never would have started doing this or thinking about it or applying it to my game. And I'll tell you what it is later, but I started doing it to my game, and I've had a winning month: September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, whatever month we're in now. And I seriously credit that thing, that idea that I was listening to in the video and started putting it in my game, and I was like, wow, holy shit, this is genius. I never would have done this ever in my life. What?
I said, well, there you go. I've been proven wrong.
And so, no, not necessarily, but I obviously I like to thank, him and Isildrun all the time. I'm like, Isildrun, thank you for making videos and making me better. Thank you, but, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that because, at the same time, like, obviously, I'm not a big fan of, like, strategy, stuff like that, but at the same time, I feel like they helped me a bit, over time as well, too. So
I guess like it helps too if you are watching videos of somebody who thinks the game similarly to you. So like if you think the game similarly to Phil, and he's playing harder than you and he's better than you, then you're gonna have a lot of things that you can like gain from him, I guess. But when I watch, I think about the game a lot differently than I think a lot of other people, and I'm not saying that in an elitist way. I'm just saying that my approach is a lot different. So when I watch like a Phil video, I get tilted because I think, like, Phil's one of my favorite people in poker. I love Phil. He's an awesome guy. And, like, we've had some heads-up battles and stuff, and obviously he's, like, super good. But, like, it tilts me because he'll like, be saying a bunch of stuff that I just, like, kind of disagree with, and I'm not really, like, keen on his thought process. But then he still kind of gets to the right conclusion and makes the right choice anyways. And it just tilts me because I'm like, oh, man, he was so close to making a big mistake there, I think, but he just doesn't really make those mistakes. But, like, I guess it just tilts me that he kind of, like, approaches the game differently but still, like, plays really, really well. But I don't know. It's interesting. I'm always entertained watching other guys play PLO. Like, Odson definitely thinks the game more like I do than any of the other, like, PLO regs on Run It Once. He's constantly talking about, like, ranges. Oh, I'm going to value bet to my range here, and I'm going to do this and checking back range and like so he's like
impression.
He's like that's my Odson impression, by the way.
So guys, Odson here. You
He's
like
such a Scandi robot. He's like exactly what you would think he is, just this Scandi bot, right? With like this deep voice that's just like monotonous and making like good decisions. That's exactly what I thought he was going to sound like, and that's exactly how he sounds like.
That's so funny. I actually never thought about a red marker. I never thought about what he'd sound like. I think he was like the person I like at one point in time I played with him more than anyone else like in the whole entire poker world. And it was
Yeah,
interesting like his rise happened like when I was like slowly moving up. Like I was like 10-20 and all of a sudden he was like 10-20, 50-100.
yeah, yeah,
Boom. I'm just like, gee, this guy's
yeah.
all of a sudden he
Yeah,
started
well,
flattening.
he's
He
an
started
interesting. Like I feel like there hasn't really been anybody that's done that kind of like in the Hold'em realm for like a long time. Like if you look at the last 5 years,
WCG,
like
right?
how many people that are playing nosebleeds just kind of like climb the ladder to get there? Like how many people playing nosebleeds now played, millions of hands at mid stakes like 3 or 4 years ago? Like Odson's like the only one probably, and that's
Are
like
we talking PLO right now?
yeah, I mean, kind of Hold'em too. I guess I can't really speak for Hold'em because I
Yeah,
know.
I don't think we're not familiar enough with Hold'em to really like talk
I
about
guess there are some guys in Hold'em maybe that are like that. Maybe like Fort Haley and those Russian dudes or whatever.
maybe WCG Ryder.
Yeah, but he's different though because he's like a heads up specialist, right? So like, I feel like he's not
Talk,
just like a
talk to
standard.
him. You talk
I
to him.
feel
He's a
like he's
six
not
max
just a
specialist.
standard grinder. Like any of the mid. What I'm saying, what I'm trying to say here is that if any of the mid stakes guys watching this podcast that play like 3-6 PLO for a living and just grind out like six max on stars, Odson is like their absolute like icon or should be because of he's done what they would ideally like to do, right? And there's not very many other people that have done that. I guess is what I'm saying. So, yeah, I have a ton of appreciation for like what he's done. He's a pretty successful dude.
I agree. There's also one other one who worked his way up, which is Johan 5930.
Yeah, yeah. He doesn't play a whole lot of like higher than
That's
25-50.
true. Actually, he plays 25-50 capped out. I'm just trying to think. I don't really know. I haven't like railed any games. I don't know who's playing a
And he
bunch
doesn't
of.
like, yeah. There's guys that'll like battle too. Like he won't really like play me heads up. But like some guys will like battle me heads up, and I have more respect for those guys, I guess.
KR
I don't know.
friendly podcast Caramont. Actually, he's the one who did this. He moved his way up through the stakes over time,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
playing
That's a good
millions of
point.
hands.
Yeah, he's been around a long time too.
Yeah, Caramont's he's Caramont's he's awesome. He's
So what
awesome.
else do you have on tap for us to talk about?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's already like 2 hours long here, man. People are gonna see this as like 3 hours. They're gonna be tilted out of their mind. We've only gone over three hands, and I have a couple more hands, which
Is there
I,
any other general things you wanted to discuss? Anybody like the players from the game you wanted me to? I don't know. I always find it interesting watching your podcast because like I don't know, you guys will say stuff about certain players, and I'm just like totally not. That's not how I think about those players and stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting, kind of getting different.
I think you told me some of the regs you played against on a daily, often, which is no dice baby, runs like God,
I hate him so
MOP,
much.
MO. What'd you say about him?
Oh, I hate No Dice. He's good. He's a good guy, or he seems like a good guy. Whenever we talk, like, there's some guys that battle and like they can like win or lose a lot of buy-ins to you, and they can just like take it like a businessman and be fine about it and say GG. And then there's other guys like Jungle who, if you beat them for a bunch, they just like hate you, you know? Like so. Oh, the guys like No Dice, I have an appreciation for that he's a good guy, but I hate playing against him because of his strategy. It's very annoying to play against.
He's a he's I he's a beast. I haven't I only know about what his game recently from things that you might have told me about him. So and obviously you think pretty highly of his game. There's who you play against MOP as well, who I used to
Yeah.
play a lot of mid stakes with actually, and he like I always whenever I'd play with him at 5-10 and 3-6, I'm always like, man, this guy's fucking good. Like, why doesn't he play higher? Because he just played these stakes forever, and then all of a sudden he like started playing higher, and then he was like, won a bunch of money on like high stakes database, and I was like, I'm not sure why he didn't do that like a year earlier than he actually did it.
Yeah, I mean, some people are pretty cautious, like
Yeah.
really depends on the personality. I think he's definitely one of the best regs for sure. He's very
Who are your some of your favorite regs to play? Can we say who your favorite? See, we can't really like when I talk about who I I hate, I'll explain a lot about why I hate them, and I'll get in depth.
Right.
Who do you hate? What reg do
Hmm.
you not like the most?
Um. Hmm. There's a lot of regs that just like love to just like hit and run, like start a game, play heads up for a bit, win a buy, and then leave. Or like there's I don't know. There's regs that like I think like there's a bunch of like nitty bum hunters that I just like leech on the games, and I hate them, even though they could like they're not doing anything wrong, and they could debatably be great human beings
Debatably.
and super nice guys, but in my eyes they're just like the scum, you know, which is not fair for me to say at all because, like I said, they could be good guys. They're not doing anything illegal, but it just bothers me that they have a seat scripter for when an open heads-up table opens up at 51. Like that's just so mind-boggling for me that like they could have something like that. Like I don't know if you want me to name names or not, but there's guys that do.
Well, I'm gonna try to think. Is Stickman still around? Does he still play?
Oh man, he's the worst.
I
Oh,
okay. I
he
wasn't sure if
is
he
the
was.
worst. And he's so scummy on other sites. Like he's actually a bad person, I think.
I think him and
so,
XLF 82 are equally as.
so on iPoker, I don't know if people know this, but like I'm just gonna out him because he does so many bad things for the
An
games.
exclusive at High Stakes PLO podcast exclusive right now. 2 hours in. Lefort, go
So
ahead.
on iPoker, for anybody that plays the iPoker games, he's Almaz, Almaaz, and what he will do is he blocks games from happening just for the sake of making sure the fish doesn't lose their money, even though he doesn't want to play the games. Like, how sick is that?
What do you
So,
mean?
like,
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go explain a bit more.
so he wants to get like seats, like good seats on the fish. So he will do things like there'll be a table filling up with like 4 or 5 guys because there's a fish coming, and because there'll be like a fish kind of running around at the tables, like joining different tables,
Yeah.
and he will fill up that last seat to make sure that that game doesn't run, like that fish doesn't get that last seat because he doesn't have a good seat in that game. But then he won't play in the game, so he's just table blocking. How gross is that?
Well, I know things like that to a degree used to happen on PokerStars, but it really never got anywhere out of control at PLO. That never would happen with Stick or Axel for you
He
know.
also doesn't have any respect whatsoever for heads-up games. So you could be playing a fish heads-up, and both you and the fish say, "Hey, this is heads-up," and he'll just join, and he won't. He then never chats. Yeah, it's pretty gross. On a site where there's no heads-up, it'd be different if there was heads-up 25
Oh,
minutes.
that's terrible for you. Yeah.
So it's obviously I hate him,
I,
but
I fucking hate him too. Jesus.
I think like there's very few people that I say like I hate in poker, but I think he's very clearly incredibly bad for the games and doesn't have any appreciation or respect for other people. So
Yeah.
there are other guys where I don't hate, but like they kind of have similar behaviors on stars at
Like who?
times. Um, uh, uh, I guess I don't. Yeah,
Are there
I
even
guess
bum hunter with Zoom and everything? I mean, are there even any bum hunters anymore? Really? Like,
no. There's guys that are just kind of annoying. They only play when the games are really good, which is fine. But like, it's just kind of annoying that they do that. And like, there are guys that will sit me heads up sometimes with like half a buy-in just to like see if they can run it up. And then if they do, they just like leave. They say GG and just quickly leave, and then like play somebody else or whatever. And it's like a standard like stars rag. It'll be like, who's done that to me? And again, that's completely within the rules of the game. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But it's still annoying. It makes me dislike them. Neil Channing used to do that to me every once in a while. N Channing or
that
whatever.
motherfucker.
Um, Barry Sweet has done it to me like countless times, and it's not even his fault because like I used to sit him when the games were not Zoom, and it like I knew it was gonna only be 2 hands because he just doesn't want to play me, but he'd always stack me in one of those 2 hands. So it's like I sit him, he stacks me, says GG and leaves, and it's just like, oh my god, I hate you so much right now, and you know. stuff like that.
I think Caramont echoed a similar sentiment about Barry Sweet, how he ran absurdly hot versus him, and I would agree with that. And actually, that's actually
Barry's a
a
good player.
decent
He's
segue
annoying
into
to
a
play against.
what?
Barry's a good player. He's annoying to play against.
Let's segue into a hand.
All right,
Featuring
perfect.
Barry
Let's do it.
Sweet and Phil Galfond.
Nice.
So I'll go ahead and break down this hand, or talk, just whatever, describe the hand real quick for anyone listening. So this hand is a 5100 zoom hand and spots Dr. Pompey, who is debatably a doctor out of the country of Turkey, and his last name's Pump A. And
Got to be a fish, right?
what?
Is that the fish?
Oh, I have a couple other hands he played. He's one of the a tier where sometimes he's playing okay, he's
Yeah.
playing decent sometimes. He shows up like top of his range more often than not, and you get confused. But
Yeah.
other times, he just totally makes baffling plays.
Right.
So I think it depends. He's one of those kind of tiers where he middles in between type of thing.
I don't know. In my opinion, there's a lot of fish that do some stuff better than some of the regs accidentally too. So
That's probably an interesting topic. Let's talk about this hand
yeah,
first.
that's also what I don't really want to talk about.
Yeah. So Barry Sweet opens the button. He pots the button with Queen 9 4 Jack with 3 spades. He's potting probably because he's deep with Pump A, and he knows Pump A is going to defend pretty wide. So I think potting that hand's fine. Obviously, he wants to play hands with the top tier player at the table. And so Phil defends the big blind with Ace 5 6 7 with Ace 6 5 of hearts.
Yeah.
And
Standard so far.
yeah, there are 100 big blinds effective. So the flop is 10 6 4 rainbow, and so Phil flops middle pair and a open-ended straight draw, and Barry Sweet flops a backdoor straight draw, a backdoor flush draw, and a bottom pair with a backdoor quad draw to pocket four or to four runner runner, and it goes check check. And the turn is where this hand gets really interesting. So the turn's a king of diamonds. So Barry Sweet turns a wrap, and Phil still has middle pair and an open and straight draw. So Phil checks, Barry Sweet bets 551 into 750, and Phil decides to check pot, it looks like, to 2151
Yeah.
with middle pair and open and straight draw, and Barry Sweet has a wrap and bottom pair, and he decides to call. Now I think the turn play, I don't know. I think if I'm gonna check raise here, I'd rather just lead. But what do you think about the turn play?
I really like the turn play. I think a lot of people lead, and I think his play is better.
Oh
The
God.
reason I think so is because
I'm gonna start check raising the turn now. Fuck yeah. Okay, go ahead.
no, I think the reason it plays better is because I'm not saying you should just like always check raise when you like turn an open ender with bottom pair or whatever. I'm just saying that like the problem is when that card comes on the turn, um, basically Barry Sweet still has a lot of good hands, and when you pot or when you bet into him, you're not going to get a lot of those hands to fold. Yeah, the problem with betting the turn is you're basically betting the turn in a spot where you're betting into a range where, how do I explain this? You're not getting a tier of hands to fold that you're wanting to get fold. The only way you're getting them to fold is when you check raise.
It's sick. I go ahead. Keep going. Sorry.
Kind of understand what I'm saying? And you also have a fairly nut making hand, I guess. Not really. What do you have? You have like 3 outs to the nuts. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like betting in that spot. I think it just plays into Barry's strategy and Barry's range very well. Basically, he's just going to pick you off a lot. You're
No,
going to miss.
I think about this spot a lot because I play only 6 max, and I play a lot of spots where I defend the big blind with a bit wider range, and then flop goes check check, and then the turn you're in a spot where you're deciding if you should lead, if you should check fold, or if you should check call or check raise. And I think this specific hand I probably just wouldn't bet the turn because I don't think I'd bet the turn, and I don't know if I'd check fold or check call or check raise. I don't think I'd ever really check raise just because the stakes I'm playing, check raising here, it just really leads to, upping your variance for the most part. I mean, yeah, it makes you tougher to play against,
Well,
in games
what
like
you have to
this.
think about too is that when your plan is to check raise, or sorry, when you check, you're not guaranteed that Barry's going to bet here. Very frequently, you're going to get a free card, and that's a good thing for your hand because a lot of the hands that you're trying to fold out, if you lead the turn, um, if the turn goes check check, you're probably going to get those hands to fold out when you lead the river. You understand what I'm saying?
I definitely do. It's actually it's a
So
pretty
that's
point.
kind of a big thing here is that when Phil checks the turn, he's doing so thinking this is very frequently going to check through, and I'm going to have a pretty good spot on the river where I can bluff when I need to bluff, and I can value bet when I need to value bet, and I can check raise when I want to check raise. So checking through the turn is actually nice, and obviously when you bet the turn, you can never let the turn check through. So
So why check rate? I mean, it seems like a spot where Barry bets the turn. I mean,
because
he's the kind
once
of
he
player who's going to call the check raise with, like blockers sometimes. Like he might not even actually have an out to win the hand, but he's just going to, the board's king 10 6 4 with two diamonds. I mean,
Right. I
there's
mean, the
this.
thing is, Phil has all the sets. Barry only really has kings, and a lot of players like to see bet their overpairs on that flop. So you could argue that like Phil has all the sets and Barry doesn't, which means Phil is obviously going to have a check raising range because he's going to be check raising a lot of those sets, and if he's going to be check raising a lot of those sets for value, he wants to have a check raise bluffing range. And turning a hand like third pair when an open-ended straight draw into a bluff is a pretty good way to do that. What are you doing?
Me.
Yeah.
I was looking at on. I don't know what the hell was I looking at. Oh, something on Twitter. I was checking this notification. I was looking at it. Oh, now
Okay.
I'm on here. Oh, I forgot they can see the thing. Oh, whoops, whatever. Who cares? So, all right. So let's get back to the hand. So he does Phil check raises, Barry Sweet calls.
Yeah.
So the board's
We'll
king
move
10.
on from the turn.
So okay. So the board's king 10 6 4. Barry Sweet has a wrap, and Phil has middleish pair. River. Shit gets interesting. The river's the
Yeah.
ace.
Yeah.
So Phil makes two pair on the river, and
Right.
obviously Barry Sweet runs well. He makes the nuts. So
Uh-huh.
Phil bets 1766 into $5,000, which is about less than half pot, and obviously Barry Sweet shoves, and Phil calls. Now, what do you think about the river play, river sizing on Phil's part, and the bet call?
It's very interesting. This is like a spot where I struggle with at six max because um, ranges are just so different than heads up. Like when Barry Sweet bet calls this turn, I think he's going to have a lot more straights on the river than if this hand were heads up, for example. Because if this hand is heads up, when he bet calls the turn, he's doing with all sorts of stuff that can like win at showdown, like shitty two pairs and like a pair and a flush draw, and like he's gonna get to the river with like all sorts of weird shit. So heads up, I like Phil's play because he can get value out of those hands, and it's a blocker bet against the times that he makes a better two pair. But at six max, I'm not sure if it's a good play because I feel like he is betting into a range that's going to have a lot of nut hands. I don't think Phil's going to have as many of the straights as Barry's going to have. So you could argue that he shouldn't be betting there at all, really. I don't know. It's a very interesting spot. So when he bets and Barry raises,
I'm guessing he thinks he's
um,
turning some type of missed diamond with a blocker, queen jack blocker or something like
yeah,
that into a bluff.
yeah. Which, when Phil doesn't have a blocker at all there, like a queen or a jack, I feel like it's probably a fold. But I mean, maybe he's just thinking that he made the bet size for Barry to overbluff. By overbluff, I mean bluff too much. So that would be probably his reasoning for calling. Plus, Phil just likes to call. He's a curious guy. So yeah, he's too rich. He's too rich to fold that hand.
Might
So
be, might
he
be.
called and he didn't win the hand. But yeah, it's really interesting because I don't know really if his river player is good, but it might be.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
obviously, like it's what that's what happens when you check raise that turn and you get called. You get in some weird spots on the river, and
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing about Phil in his game, right? Like he can do stuff like that and hand read really well, and kind of presume that he's going to outplay his opponent in given river situations, right?
definitely.
Meanwhile, one of us or like a mid stakes player playing this hand on the turn might be totally confused when this river hits and not know what to do. So then maybe they shouldn't shoot themselves in the foot and check raise the turn. So, you know,
Yeah, it's like shouldn't put themselves in that really tough spot on the river where they're gonna make decisions that they're not really confident
right.
in making. So then they
Now,
just pull the
the
turn.
problem with that is that if you're never check raising the turn as a bluff, every time you check raise the turn and I'm playing against you, I can just fold.
Well,
So,
then the question then becomes, I mean, if we're talking from bluffs, I mean, we can include semi bluffs in that. You know what I mean? Like turned.
yeah, but still, I mean, if you're not bluffing hands that are fairly weak, then basically on a lot of river runouts, you're just not going to have enough hands to bluff with. And I'm just going to be able to fold all my bluff catchers on the river. Like, for example, in this hand, say the river's a blank, whatever a blank is, and Phil bets, because the type of player Phil is, you're in a really tough spot with a bluff catcher, right? But if Phil's the type of person that only check raises the turn with very, very value heavy and all of the draws, then on the river where like, draws complete or whatever and stuff, like he's just like not gonna have enough hands to bluff with.
All
So
right.
cool.
So let's go back to this hand real quick.
That's what makes Phil a much tougher player to play against than a lot of other people.
Or wait, I'm on your screen now. This is weird. Okay, so let's go back to this hand real quick. So I want to go to the turn here. So the board's King 10 6 4 with 2 diamonds. So where's the so his hand obviously when Phil check raises here, we consider his hand to be a bluff for the most part.
Right.
So a combo draw like 9 Jack XX with diamonds, so it has a straight draw and a flush draw.
Yeah.
Would you consider that to be at the semi? I mean, what's the difference between that hand in this spot and Phil's hand? How far, do you think is the difference in those two hands in this
The
specific?
problem with those hands is that a lot of them are just going to bet the turn as opposed to checking.
Whereas, so those hands wouldn't be in a check raise range.
They wouldn't be in your checking range, so you'd have trouble choosing
Oh, okay, it
them.
would be your checking range. Okay.
So you'd have trouble having enough of those hands to check raise.
Hmm. Makes sense.
So you kind of have to, once you decide to check a certain range, look at that checking range and be like, okay, which of this range do I want to have as bluffs? Because clearly I want to have a bunch of value hands to raise. Which ones am I going to choose to bluff with? And Phil chose this one, and I think it's fine. I think the turn play is fine. I'm not saying it's like standard, or I'm not
Yeah, I'm
saying
just saying because like I would never think to check this turn with if he does bet that I might think about check raising this specific hand. Like, this just wouldn't go. This wouldn't be a thought I have.
yeah,
Playing this hand, but I mean, obviously, it's definitely something to think about. It's something I, haven't really thought about. And normally, I think it's probably just I haven't thought about it is because that, I just don't want to end up, putting myself in a high variance spot on the river. I'm all about lowering my variance these days. So when I can avoid, obviously, then that does make you, like you said, it does make you easier to play against some players. And when you're playing against the top players who are, thinking in these types of ways, then you do have to be much more aware of that. But I guess from the competition I'm used to playing, I mean, there's some good players, but for the most part, that's not something I have to overly concern myself with. So
yeah, that's completely fair and reasonable for sure. I think,
yeah, I think
yeah,
definitely, obviously, when you get to these stakes and you're playing against, some of the best players in the world,
yeah,
then
you gotta be bluffing enough. Otherwise, you're too easy to play against.
yeah, when you play against guys like Phil, then you become, easier to play against. We're gonna show a couple more hands because this hand actually will answer a question you asked me.
All right.
So this hand is between the formerly mentioned Johan 5390 and
All
Dr.
right.
Pompey. So Pompey stack here is only 146 big blinds, and it's
I like how
50-100
you call
zoom.
him Pompey. I
I
don't
don't.
know. I don't know why.
What
I
would
just
what would you call him?
Dr. Pump with an E. I don't know.
So
Pompey, I guess.
you'd call Jeans Jans, and you'd call this guy Pump.
Johan 5390.
you'd call Dr. Pump Dr. Pump.
Yes. And Jan Smith.
That guy's name's John Smith. Just get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you talking about? The guy's name's John Smith. Let's not even get into this, okay? His name's John Smith. So
All
at this
right.
table, we got Johan 5390. We have John Smith. We have Dr.
Hey, you
Pompey.
know the history behind the name Yankee?
No, are you gonna tell me?
Yes, it comes from the term Jan Keys, and it was a name that like the Indians had for the pioneers that came over from you know, from Europe because they were often called John, but they called them like Jan Keys, and then it turned into Yankees. Look it up.
Wow,
I'm full of knowledge, Joe.
I know, but I don't. The guy's name's John fucking Smith. Whatever.
Okay. Sorry. Bad.
All right, Jan. We have Johan. We have Jan Smith. We have Dr. Pump. We have Isildraun shot taking 50-100 because Pump is in the hand, and MOP.
Right.
So the hands between Johan and Pump. 120 big blinds effective. Johan raises under the gun. He pots it with, or almost pots it with Ace King Jack 4 double suited. A pretty good hand. Pump is on the button with the powerful Jack 8 8 6 with Jack 8 of clubs. He decides this is a good hand to 3-bet.
Right.
Johan, obviously knowing that Pump's insane, 4-bets Ace King Jack 4 double suited, which I think is perfectly good.
Mm-hmm.
Pump decides to call, which I don't know. I don't think I advocate this play. The flop is
Once he gets chips in, he's got to get more chips in.
I mean, in theory, you can't 3-bet this hand with the intention of folding it, so I understand Pump's logic. So the flop is Queen 9 6 2 diamonds, and Johan flops a backdoor heart draw and a gut shot and 2 overs. And I mean, he's probably going to be potting most flops, so I think potting here is good. I guess. Not sure.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, obviously, I think this flop is going to really hit Pump's range hard, and if Pump's he knows that Pump's not folding. If he's not folding Jack 6 6 8 on this flop, he's not folding many hands in this flop. So. Yeah.
What's the stack to pot ratio? It's like 1, pretty much. They have a bet pot left. That's this is why I hate 6 max. I don't want to have to make that decision.
You don't want to have to decide if you should pot this flop or not?
I don't want to have to decide that. I'm just not good at making those decisions. I don't know if that's good or not. I guess he's supposed to with only a pot left. I feel like somewhere between a pot and 2 pot, he's got a check fold. Like, if they have 2x pot, you can't just pot and get it in, I don't
If he
think.
has 2x pot, yeah, I think it becomes a bit different.
Right, so there's
Much
got to be a
different.
threshold in there somewhere.
Well, that's interesting.
But yeah, I guess this is pretty standard.
Yeah, I guess so.
Such a shitty flop.
I know. Well, okay,
How
so
awesome is it that Pump was the favorite? That's amazing.
that's really sick. I just looked at that and I was like, wait, what? I think when I was picking this hand out and I saw the hand, he was like the favorite. He was like the favorite at all points in time on the flop turn river with his hand. So
Yeah.
okay, I'll just finish the hand. So Queen 9 6 flop, 2 diamonds. Pump has Jack 8 8 6. So he's got bottom. Well, technically he has a pair of 8s and he has a gut shot. But Johan also has a gut shot and 2 overs. And Pump is actually a 54% favorite on the flop. And he actually ends up winning the hand, and he takes down the $24,000 pot with a pair of
Good for
8s.
Pump.
I know, man. That's probably how I got that 500 big blind stack. That's why Isildraun's playing this game, because Pump's doing things like that. So we're going to go one more Pump hand. So, man, what the hell? All right, so this is between Pump and Barry Sweet at 5,100. They're about 140 big blinds effective. So Pump raises the small blind with King, Queen, Queen 8, no suits. Barry Sweet 3-bets, Ace, King, Jack 8.
Oh, this hand is so very Swedish.
I know, right? This is kind of funny. So Barry Sweet has Ace, King, Jack 8, 3 diamonds. He 3-bets. Pump calls in the small blind. The flop 7-5-3 with 2 spades. And so Barry Sweet has backdoor diamonds, and Pump has an overpair, pair of queens. So goes check, check. Turn is a jack of clubs, gives Barry Sweet top pair, top kicker, but he doesn't have the best hand. Pump has pair of queens. So Pump decides to lead for half pot. Yeah. I'm not sure what he's thinking. Obviously, very sweet calls seems standard. The river.
You don't know what to do, just bet, right?
What What is happening on this river? So the river's an ace, obviously. Very sweet makes top two pair.
Yeah.
Pump checks. Very sweet bets 2400 and 3600, and pump check raises all in.
Yeah, man.
What is?
Why not?
I agree, but this is
Very sweet, just can't have the nuts, so might as well just fucking get it in and put him to the test.
I don't know what is he doing. Like he
Put him
could
to the
just call.
test.
Um, so pump obviously check raises all in and loses a $25,000 pot. So there's really not much analysis to talk about this hand. Pump's bad on the turn, debatable. The play on the river is obviously one of the most worst plays I've ever seen in my whole entire life. And if you're ever playing with Pump, if you ever see him playing, you should probably play with him because.
I mean, it would have been a good play if he had 6-4. Right? Right? Am I right?
I mean, you're, you're, yeah, it would have been a good play. Right.
I think it was close to a good play. He just needed to have 2 different cards in his hand. It would have been like the best play. It's close.
So wait a sec. If he had the nuts, you're saying that was a good play.
Yeah, sure. Then he would have stacked them.
How often do you have the nuts? Is this what it's like to have the nuts? Is this what you think?
Just live
Like,
with the nuts.
I ask you for interesting hands. You show me a hand where you have top set, and you show me a hand where you bluff raise a flop and make the nuts in the turn. Like those are your interesting hands. Like 1 year of hands. Those are your interesting fucking hands you send me. It's like you make the
Actually, yeah, it's funny. I actually saw a lot of hands when I was looking through that I was just like, wow, I played this really bad. But I mean, I guess sometimes you just have like reads in game too, right? Where you just don't, when you're looking back 2 years later or something, you're just not going to know what you were thinking at the time. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just didn't have a lot of interesting ones. I would need like a few hours to go through. But then, you know what? My interesting ones would be ones where I would want to like go off on a tangent on strategy, and you'd just be like, you'd have to like whip me back into the podcast, and be like, no, strategy.
The listeners of the podcast would really enjoy that. I know they'd love to hear you talk strategy. You're debatably one of the smartest people we've had on the podcast so far.
Well, then I'll have to come back to do that for them.
I mean, yeah, obviously. We enjoy having. It's interesting. So with these guests I'm having, right? So I do a podcast with WCG Ryder. He plays like debatably one of the best heads-up Nolan players in the world. You know what I mean? And then I did one with Caramont. He's been winning at mid-high. He's been winning at high stakes PLO online in the hardest games. Plays anybody. And then I have you on, and then like I'm having some really smart people on these podcasts. These are like the really interesting conversations that I'm pretty happy that other people are getting to hear these because you definitely don't get to hear inside the mind of like people that are doing really well in these games, and I think that people are going to be listening and they're going to be really interested and can potentially take some things away from these and.
Yeah, and I'm hoping people watch that, are just kind of fans of poker or whatever and follow online poker. And I think when you can relate to the people that you're watching online a little more, then it's more interesting to watch, right? Like, that's the thing about online poker. It's so impersonal. Like, it's just like, names and avatars. And it makes it difficult to, like, develop a certain fan base that would be great for the games. But you can't really do that very well with online poker, I feel like.
Well, that was actually one of the big reasons why I wanted to do the PLO podcast was that I've wanted to get some people in the PLO world some more exposure because I feel like, outside of like the bigger guys, like, a guy like you or a guy like Caramont, like, there's really been no opportunities for anybody to know who you guys are. And, I think it's just good for the games if like people get to know, have like a rooting interest. Like if you're watching, like if you saw, the thread, the PLO thread, like people are asking Caramont, like, now they're asking him all these questions. They want to know more about him. You know what I mean? Now people can become fans of Caramont. When he's playing tables, they might pop open 60 tables and just rail just because they want to see how he's doing. Like, and I think that's a good thing for the games. You're watching these guys play that you're a fan of. Maybe you want to play PLO. Like I think it's it's one of the goals I had from the before I did any podcast was like I want to get some of these people well known. I want to have some people on and just get them out there. Just like, let people meet them, make a decision if they like them or if they don't like them. Get to know them a bit better. And obviously this one is a perfect example of that. No one, I think I barely, I mean, I knew who you were, vaguely from just, the poker forum stuff like that. Before I started talking to you, I didn't
Yeah.
really know too much about you. Like they're like, Lefort, who he is. I'm like, I don't know. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I think this is, just a great opportunity for people to really get to know you. And I think if there's like, a couple thousand people watch this, then you're probably going to get a couple thousand new fans. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good
Hope
thing.
so.
You can't, you don't ever hate fans. Like I know you're like,
Never happened with Railbirds.
yeah, I know you want to be, private with your results and like, you don't want to be out there like, all in your face like, hey, I'm Lefort, what's up? But at the same time, it's not bad to have people rooting for you and wanting to read your stuff and
No, for sure,
read
and
what.
that's why I did it. I think, yeah, like you said, it's just like super good for the games, and it's just like just kind of develops a bit of content, I guess, like away from the games that I think is lacking in the poker world, and
Yeah,
it
I
could
can't.
be. I mean, it could even start up like maybe a rival podcast or something, and like or maybe even just like somebody like other people doing stuff that just gives the games more exposure. I think is just a great thing.
So I initially wanted to do a website where I was gonna really get in depth about my experiences in poker and like the way I approached mindset and stuff like that because my thought was like everything in poker right now is so boring. I go to 2+2 every day. It's fucking most part it's pretty boring except during the Uru prop bet when random people were posting. It was kind of exciting a bit. But for the most part, I go there, I waste time, I do nothing, and that's my poker content. But I love poker. Like I would if there's something someone doing something exciting in poker, I'd watch it. Like I'd read it. Like I would take it in. And
Right.
nothing was happening. There's nothing for PLO. There's nothing for anything. I was like, why don't I just do something? So initially I wanted to do a website, but it's kind of overwhelming, and I didn't want to put myself out there that much. So then I decided this podcast would be something a perfect medium to do in the meantime because I can give something for the PLO world. Like you have to think there's these small stakes PLO guys. Like there's nothing PLO related anywhere. Like even
Yeah.
mostly poker related. There's not poker entertainment. There's some other podcasts for the most part, but most of the podcasts these days, they're just by people that no one really knows much about. They don't necessarily might not even play poker anymore. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think it's like a really cool thing for like someone that's active in the community to be doing a podcast and talking about other regulars and like going in depth. No one, everyone's so politically correct, except WCG Writer. When it comes to just talking about people, talking about their life, talking about this and that, and that makes sense. I don't expect people to want to tell all like I like to rate. I don't expect other people to really think that way because it's really outside the box and it's kind of taking a risk. You have to put yourself out there and you're going to get some backlash and not everyone's going to like you. But at the same time, you kind of need some type of entertainment in poker. You want to keep people interested. You want to keep people,
Absolutely.
thinking about poker. And like you said, I hope some ideas come up because everything is boring right now when you look at things.
The excitement years ago was just like this new thing where you could just like play a game online and make millions of dollars as a kid. That was exciting. So it just formed all sorts of interesting storylines. And really, since Isildur, there hasn't been a whole lot of interesting stuff going on. You have these like random names come up from Macau or whatever, and like games will start, but like there's no like interesting stuff happening, and I feel like that's what the game is lacking right now because that's the stuff that enthusiasts and recreational players thrive on, and that's the reason why they will sit down every once in a while at a 25-50 table, with 3K and be like, I'm going to take a shot here because I just saw a video. I just saw Joe Ingram and Lefort, talk about this Dr. Pompey guy. I'm gonna take a shot at him. I don't think he's very good, or just like whatever, right? Like
I feel
you
like
get
you're inside my head right now, like speaking literally what I think, like my whole thought process for doing any of this. Like that's what's really
yeah.
sick about
Well,
this.
I'm just on the same page. I mean, I was from the beginning. I thought it was really cool that you were doing this, and that's why I wanted to do one from the beginning. Hopefully, we'll do more.
I think so. Well, actually, and I had an idea. I'll tease it on the podcast there's 50 people listening. I'm sure maybe only there may not be that many listening, and people will listen to this. So
Yeah, they
I'm
just
gonna
left the stream going. They've like gone to the gym or whatever.
Yeah, they probably just like left whatever 2 hours, like fuck this shit, I'm out. But there's people, they're bored, they want to listen. This is probably pretty entertaining for anyone that actually plays PLO. Anyone that like reads poker forums and like just reads the post over, years, they probably find this kind of interesting conversation. So,
I'm sorry.
but what I was gonna do is that I had an idea. So, during I did my Supernova Elite prop bet in 2011, at the end of 2011. I played the 450,000 hand month, and when I first started that prop bet, I moved to Vancouver. I was like pretty much bust out for the most part, and so I did the prop bet, and then I started playing high stakes. Or I started moving up high stakes. I went from 24 tabling to playing 4 tables, and then I had
Mhm.
100K month, I had 100K month, I had 100K month, I had like 150K month, and then
Nice life.
I what do you say?
Nice life.
Yeah, and then I PTR poker table ratings went down, and I didn't care anymore because I only played to have a sick PTR graph. And then I lost a bit of money. I cashed out most of my money. I started raging. I just drove a Ferrari. I almost bought a Ferrari. I started dating the girl at Ferrari.
I feel like
I
Noel almost bought a Ferrari at one point.
Yeah, I mean like I like thought about buying a Ferrari, but like it wasn't like that cool of a car, so I just said like I don't want to buy it.
Yeah.
But whatever. Okay. So basically, my point was that I was gonna start do like a 10 episode thing, basically taking people through that whole entire journey of the upswing through
Yeah, you could totally like. Yeah, that would be super cool.
when I found drugs, when
Yeah.
I fell in love, to the downswing
Well,
when I lost most of that
where would
money.
the climax be? Would it be like? Would it be a financial thing, or would it be like one night where you're like raging at some like party and just doing something crazy at a rave at 5 a.m.?
What would the
Climax of the story be?
Well, I think the story would start off, I started off, I had no money, I moved to Canada, and then just, you know, take people through my thought process, and when I started taking shots, show the hands, show the graphs, like, get in depth in the hands. When I started playing bad, show those hands, show how the play suffered, just show how many hours I was playing, like really get in depth as far as how my life changed. So I
Yeah.
have no money, now I have a lot of money. How did my life change? How did my mentality change? How did my motivation change? And I think, doing something like this, no one's ever done anything like this before. Going super
Right.
in depth into your whole entire results, your mindset, your everything, how your life, essentially went from this to this. You became poor, now you're rich. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on there that like doesn't happen in other people's entire lifetimes, and it happened for you for a couple of years. It's a lot of
yeah,
stuff.
but this was like, from January until this September, October of that year, and then the 3 4 months I did the prop bet. So I was gonna do like a 10 episode thing, 1 episode for the prop bet, one when I started moving on up, and then kind of just break down the months from there, go over a bunch of real. I have so many. I mean, I have a lot of very interesting hands that I played, and I
That's
can
really
talk about
good.
why I might have been playing the games, and all that stuff like that. And I think that'll be extremely interesting, especially once I keep building up the podcast audience and
Yeah,
and stuff like that. So I think I'm pretty excited to do that. Obviously, it's kind of a big project to undertake, but
I think you should do it.
yeah, I'm just gonna. Did you? Oh yeah, Did you know PokerTube? I told you this. PokerTube. They are paying me to do their official podcast on their website.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, they're paying me per episode. I won't say how much, but it's more than I expected I would get. And yeah, so I'm gonna do their official website podcast that'll be on like the homepage for them. And
Nice.
they said they can get me guests. If I want to get some guests that I don't know, that they can get me guests. I can talk about raging and I can talk about anything I want.
That's awesome because it's going to give you more exposure to your podcast and just like it'll generate more audience in general. Just
Yeah, so I
I think
thought,
like yeah.
well,
Go on.
I said I talked. I mean, I'm friendly with some of the guys that work there, and they were talking about what can we do with you that you could do something for the site, and I was like, I don't know. And then they said podcast. I was like, well, that'd be perfect. I'm already doing podcasts. Like, I'll do a podcast for you guys, and that way, I think PokerTube's a more of a casual player audience, and hopefully I'll be able to, be entertaining and they'll enjoy me doing a podcast for them. Then obviously I'll be mentioning my PLO podcast, my WCG Writer podcast, and hopefully I can get some carryover from that audience into my, this audience, and then maybe spawn something from that point on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So that's kind of the vision I have for it. But obviously we'll see what happens with that. So I think I'm going to start doing that pretty soon.
Good. I
And
look forward to it.
yeah, let me think. For you. Okay. Oh yeah. So, you said you're friends with D to the MFI, who's also a high stakes player who no one knows for the most part, right?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen
Yeah, I
him?
mean, he's a friend. I've never met him in real life, but
Oh,
he's
well, never mind then. I proposed a challenge to the world, and by the world I mean people I knew, that I
yeah.
would play a challenge where it's half heads up PLO, half one-on-one basketball.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And
You
these,
should you should definitely do that because stuff like that is exciting, right? Like,
yeah, but I don't want to do it. There's random. I don't care if it's like with someone I don't know. That's like I'm gonna beat you in basketball. Like I don't give a fuck. But I want to
yeah,
do it with people that are like rags, like forum members that I know, and like
yeah.
what I mean, people I know.
Well, it's
So
like the leather ass thing, right? Like he did that in golf. I
yeah,
don't
he
know if
did.
anybody ever took him up on
Yeah, this isn't like
it.
some high stakes thing. And there's another guy, Napsis, my friend Johan, who is a moderator on 2+2. Me and him are gonna we're gonna. He's the first person I talked to doing this with, but he's played professional basketball in Finland, and he's like six. He's like a little bit taller than me. He's like 6'4", 6'5", or something like that. So
Must be
he's like,
nice being tall.
yeah. So I'm like 6'3", maybe 6'4" with the right shoes on, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna beat him at basketball. But I don't know, I'm pretty good. But we'll see what happens. So. But for D to the MFI, I wanted to get a scouting report. Like, is he tall? Is he big?
Oh, he's tall. I think like I've talked to him a little bit about fitness and stuff. So I think like he's kind of in a situation where he's focused on poker for the last few years and hasn't done a ton of like
Mhm.
fitness, but used to like play sports and stuff. So I don't know. He could be a good spot for you. Maybe you can run laps around him on the courts. And
Well, he kind
he's
of mentioned that.
PLO though, so I would think that he would have the edge there, but maybe not. I don't know.
I think he has that. He plays 100 VPIP. I don't know how to counter 100 VPIP, man. He's crazy.
I
He
don't
like
know.
he doesn't fold. I'm not sure.
It's tough to beat people that just don't fold. You just got to
Really,
make hands.
it really is. But I've actually been playing a lot more heads up PLO with the intention that I might do this thing one day for fun. I don't want to feel silly not playing. And it turns out I've actually made a lot of money doing this, so I'm very happy I started playing more heads up PLO.
I think everybody should play more heads up PLO. It's such a fun game.
Lefort, I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. And as we know, the money moves up the ladder. So you,
I'm not being selfish here at all. I want everybody else to enjoy heads up PLO.
I can't
It's
believe
nothing to do with me whatsoever.
I can't believe I didn't ask you about women. I can't believe I didn't talk to you about women on the podcast. There's been
We'll save it for the next one. We've gotten like pretty far. I'm like I've missed like 3 meals. I'm really hungry.
You're not kidding. You literally eats 50 meals a day. I'm actually looking at my list. I've literally ran through almost everything. I'm just gonna ask you one more question because it's something I think about all the time, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Cool.
Marathon podcast, yeah, kind of. So when it comes to poker, right? You're at a stage of poker where you might not be able to really move up much more. You're kind of at where you're at for the most part. You get better, and that's kind of what it is. So what are your poker goals right now? If it's a 3 month goal and also a year goal, like what still motivates you to continue to improve, keep playing, working hard.
It's funny you say that because I've actually had a big shift in my thinking about this over the last like 6 months or so. When I broke my ankle, I basically used that time to start researching something else. And that's something else with finance and investing. I put a ton of time into basically getting to the point where I feel a lot more comfortable managing my own money than giving it to some dude to manage. And I've gotten to the point where I'm in the process of basically pooling all of my, poker past earnings and stuff and net worth and basically developing my own portfolio, self-directed. And that's kind of where I see myself in the next 3 to 5 years. My goal is for my energy and time to be better spent investing in my portfolio of money as opposed to poker wise. So basically what I'm saying is that my goal is within the next maybe 3, 4, 5 years, I want my average yearly expectations from investments to be larger than what I can expect to make with online poker, which I think is very achievable.
So do you
And
see yourself
at
with
that point, I can pretty much be retired, basically, but be actively managing my money.
so ideally it sounds like you have a your goal would be to not have to play poker anymore.
Yeah, well, it's not so much to not have to play poker anymore, but just to like have the option of doing whatever I want. Basically, it's kind of like the Dan Blitz theorem. Just like the more money you have, the more freedom you can
How
have.
do we not even talk about that? Oh
I
my god.
know. We totally missed out on the Dan Blitz
Why did
topic.
we not we were talking about that the other day. How are we not talking about that now? Oh my god.
We need to like have like a day 24-hour break and like resume the podcast
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I think we should. So we
So
could
yeah,
talk
I guess
about
that's my goal is to and that's kind of like my motivation. It's funny because like there's been times where I've thought about doing something like buying a Ferrari or something, just because I really like making more money didn't really do anything for my life because like whatever I'm giving it to somebody else to invest it. That doesn't impact how my Tuesday is going to be. But if I bought a Ferrari, that would make my Tuesday a lot cooler, you know.
yeah.
So
Do it.
uh, that kind of like I got to the point where it was like you lose a little bit of motivation because it's like winning money today isn't really going to affect my life. But once I started getting into investing, it's like have a whole new bankroll, my investing bankroll, and like making money from poker, I can add to my investing bankroll, and that's like super motivational for me because I'm really excited to kind of like take that on as a new challenge. So I guess like that's kind of where my motivation resides now is the more money I can make from poker, the more I can take it out of poker and do cool stuff with it. Because like you said, it's not like there's some like it's not like the Ivy what's the 500 1K table with Ivy?
Ivy Dome.
Yeah, the Ivy Dome or whatever. It's not like that's running anymore, and I can like be like, oh, I want to make money so that I can play that someday. No, I've pretty much reached a point where I like, when big games happen, I sometimes play in them, but it's like it's not like I can have more big, huge poker aspirations. So I kind of had to find something else.
It sounds like you've done a pretty good job of that. I mean, obviously, I feel like I'm very goal oriented. I feel like I'm, pretty motivated, hardworking person. So I always find it interesting to, when I get to talk to other people that have had a lot of success, to figure out, where they're at with their mindset. You know what I mean? Well, what
Yeah,
motivates them, what pushes them, because,
yeah,
sometimes you hear things from other people, and maybe it's something you didn't think about that you might want to, aspire to get to, something like that. So, it's something I like to ask people that.
yeah. Motivation is
I
an
res-
interesting thing because it's not really one of those things you can just develop. There's different things that kind of affects your motivations for things, right? So it's interesting to hear what other people's motivations are, especially like successful people, for sure.
let's uh let's let's go through some comments on the YouTube. Now, there's some questions. Let's not get too in depth in them. So we'll get some shout outs. Tanthy123, I'm playing tables of 2.5 of Zoom 2.55 as we speak.
Nice.
Yep, interesting
Getting some
shit.
lucky run good vibes.
I hope so. I hope you win some money, my friend.
Yeah.
B1 and fuck, I'm usually good at pronouncing names. I'm just gonna make names up. Binside says I absolutely love this entire conversation. Still here after 2 hours and 30 minutes. You guys are amazing.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much. Quaco, God, I'm butchering these names. Quaco
That's going
Fam.
to be my next screen name. Unlike iPoker or something. Quack fam.
Quack Fam. Methods to improve in PLO. Let's not spend too much time. I want to talk about a bunch of comments. So
Right.
methods to improve in PLO. You go ahead. Take that first.
Oh, you want me to talk about it? Okay.
Go ahead.
My big. I mean, I talked about this earlier, but my big thing is PLO is a really fucking complicated game. So to just skim over your database and try to get better from like briefly looking at hands, I don't think is a good way to do it. I think if you're playing PLO and you want to get better, you need to sit down and take a hand and use some software and break it down, and it might take you 6 hours, but you're going to learn a lot from it. And do that every once in a while. Because, like I said, in my opinion, for me, I don't get better from playing. So my advice to other people, if they're similar to me in that regard, is focus just as hard on learning the game and put just as much attention and focus and energy into that part of your being a poker player than you do to your actual grinding. I think that's my best advice.
I think that's a great answer. I mean, obviously, you mentioned it earlier. Methods to improve for me, I think it's just putting in the hours. Whether
Yeah.
that is, like you said, away from the table or at the table. But you need to put in the hours. I mean, I was putting in, 8 to 10 hours a day. When I first started with poker, I played 8 to 10 hours a day for 3 years straight. I played every fucking day. And, some people are outliers. They can get better maybe only putting in 4 to 5, 6 hours a day maybe. But, that might be too much. Maybe some days they only put in 1 or 2. But I think for the most part, if you want to get better, you gotta work. You gotta have work ethic. You gotta make some sacrifices, and you gotta just put the time in. And that's ultimately, I think, the method I would use to improve at PLO. It's the method I use to improve now at PLO. So, what's your biggest pot ever? My biggest pot ever is $80,000 against Jans, where I stacked them. What about you? What?
What'd you say?
My biggest pot was against Jans at Jans 89 at 100, 200, where I stacked him for.
Not Jans.
What's it? Jeans?
Jeans. You don't have many Scandinavian friends, do you?
I don't call them there. I talk to like Tiltcorv and I talk to Go Get a Real Job, Ville, and.
Okay, the thing is, Scandinavian people, their J's are Y's and their Y's are J's. So like, if they say yes to something instead of like yeah, it's like ja.
So I'm Yo?
Yes, Yo Ingram. Yo Ingram won.
Jan Lefort?
Yes, that's the way. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah. So basically, that's the way they talk. So I don't know if that's like the way you're supposed to pronounce it there. I guess I don't know if it's slang or whatever.
Martin, who lives in Oslo, he says you both need coaching in pronouncing Scandi and European names. So maybe we're both.
Maybe I'm way off. I don't know. Me and my friends, like, we always make fun of the Scandis. We're like, we try to talk like them as if like what they're saying, like their thought processes during like a hand. So like value bet and value bet, like V and W are different. Like you gotta watch odds and videos, man. I'm going to value bet the 10.
Oh my God. What's your biggest pot ever? Okay, yeah, that
question. What is my biggest pot ever? Over 100K, but not greater than 150K, maybe. I don't know. Probably not bigger than like 150 or 200K. I think.
Must be nice to have that much money. You don't even know how much your biggest pot is.
I've won 2 tournaments for 418K and 300
What? Really?
You didn't do your research on your podcast.
My research was non-existent. I gotta be honest. I'm talking to you. That's my research. I talked to you. That's my research.
I have quite the tournament history as a poker player.
Wait, are you kidding?
No, man. I was one of the original Triple Crown winners on PocketFives.com.
What kind of fucking sick fuck are you, man? Are you kidding?
No, man.
Really?
I started out as a tournament player.
Oh my God! Thank God you don't play tournaments anymore.
No, I found them. I didn't like them, even though I did well in them.
We couldn't talk. Sean, what do I Google? Sean Lefort. What do I have to Google to find out these tournaments? You're such an unknown person.
Thanks.
Live tournament earnings, 401K. Largest tournament cash. Event 4, no limit. Third, 348,000. Well, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, that was live. That was the World Series.
Your hair is so sick in this photo. Jesus. My God, I'm having such hair envy right now, man.
There's the other one was epic. 2006 World Championship of Online Poker 2500 main event. It was the first. It was by far the biggest event ever at the time online. And Greg Raymer had just won the main like a couple years earlier, and he was doing the announcing. And I basically had just started using the term donkament with a few friends, and I kept saying it in the chat at the final table, and Greg Raymer kept saying it because he thought it was hilarious, and it made that term a thing. Like, donkament wasn't really a term before 2006.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. And JC Tran got really lucky and spiked a set on me and won that tournament instead of me winning. But yeah, I
No bad
actually
beat stories around here.
I wasn't gonna play that tournament, but I had my biggest night ever before that tournament. I won 17K playing like 10-20 cash, and was like, I'm
YOLO?
gonna play this tournament. So I did, and finished third for 418K.
This is what it's like. This is what it's like.
Those were the days, man. It was awesome. I had a few friends watching the entire time. Went to like 4:30 in the morning, and by the time I had like a nap and woke up, they were at my place like with champagne spraying me, and we just partied for a week. It was super.
That's a story for another podcast, my friend.
Oh yeah, that was
What?
there were some things that happened that week.
Like what?
Oh well, that's for another
You
podcast.
mentioned. Well, all right, whatever. What does Lefort mean? Lefort's your last name.
It means the strong actually, which is pretty sick
The
in French.
strong?
Yeah, the strong. Look it up.
Yeah, that fits you. All right,
Yeah, man.
fits you. Let's see. What's your 100 days my bet? I'm not sure of this question. What's your take on enjoying poker live versus being a eager poker? I'm not sure what he's talking about. Do you know this guy named Alex Laidlaw in the chat? He's asking some questions about you.
Oh yeah, I think he went to my school actually. I met him before, I believe. What did he ask?
I think he just said something about you got a lot bigger since high school or something like that.
Oh yeah, I went to college with him, so he wouldn't have
Oh,
seen me in high school. But I did get bigger since. I mean, I started working out in college. I was about 100 and maybe 55, 60 pounds.
what do you weigh right now?
I mean, I lost about 10 pounds, 10, 15 pounds from when I had the broken ankle, but I'm at about 195 now, I think.
What's your height? 5'11"?
5'10" and a half.
10.5?
Yeah.
You're a goddamn monster. My God.
Yeah, I wish I was 6'4". I wish life was that easy.
All right, take you talking. Calm down. Calm down. I'll give you some heels. You can wear those, and you'll feel like a princess. So you'll be fine. Uh, David
No,
Bennerfield.
somebody asked if I actually eat 6,000 calories. I don't. I mean, if I want to blow up and get big, I will. 5,000 plus. But right now, more like 4 to 4,500 probably.
Are these 5,000 USD calories or these Canadian calories?
I'm not sure what the exchange rate is there, but
Only a couple people are gonna get that reference I just made. That's a reference to something I said a long time ago in a video that people still ask me about. But it's a fair question though. So when I played 50,000 hands in a day, I said I was like I made a congratulating video, like a celebration video, and I was like, all right, I just played 50,000 U.S. hands, and I was like fucking delirious. I played for 20 hours straight, 24 tabling. So I was like, I didn't know what I said, and then someone's like, you said what's like a Russian hand? I was like, what do you mean? They're like, you said U.S. hands. I was like, oh wait, you're right.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
The
So
fact that that's what your state of mind was, and you were still playing like high stakes poker, and you were
no,
thinking,
no, no. This was the second prop bet I did, and
oh,
I played 50,000 hands. This is when I was playing No Limit back in 2009, and I played 10 cent, 25 cent, and I made like 40 buy-ins or something like that.
nice.
I made 48 buy-ins in a session, and I set the record for most hands in a day.
Wow.
And oh yeah, okay. Question: David Benefield, blogs and podcasts. Lefort really getting out there.
Oh yeah, yeah. He had a great response actually to my last blog article that I need to update. I spoke about a bunch of different things. One of them being fats, saturated fats, unsaturated fats, and I was totally wrong. I'm totally not up to date on basically the most recent developments in the world of different types of fats. Conventional wisdom is like fatty meats, for example, are not a great way to get fats in your diet because they can have negative impacts on your cholesterol and blood pressure and stuff. And basically, there's a lot of recent developments that say that that's actually bullshit. So it's interesting because I need to research it and update my blog, which is cool because it makes my blog more interactive, and that's really what I was hoping for it to be.
So that's he's been playing poker obviously for a long time. Played online. Used to play online as Raptor, David
Yeah,
Benefield. So he gave you like a really so
yeah,
you probably know him, right? You know him some level, right?
yeah, he's a friend. He's a great guy. Yeah. Yeah, he
Pretty pretty cool that he could give you that feedback that you're wrong though. Kind of.
yeah. I mean,
Good
he
for
was
you.
one of us. There was actually a bunch of people that have all said the same thing, so I feel like they're probably right. I haven't had time to read the articles yet, but
Yeah.
uh, no, it's good.
Yeah, I think really that's about it. That's really all that. Really wasn't many other questions in there. Ben Grundy, former used to play a lot of high stakes. He said cool
Yeah,
podcast with Lefort. First one
cool.
I've watched. We'll watch it again. I like Ben. Seems to be. I've had random communications with him on Twitter over the years. I'm not sure if he still really plays high stakes much anymore though.
Pops up every once in a while. We played Heads Up a little bit, maybe a few months ago, like 25-50. We played for a bit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I
I
don't
would.
know what his status is. I don't know. He doesn't seem to play enough to be registered as like non and like professional poker player. So I don't know if he's just like retired and does other stuff and plays sometimes. But I don't know. Maybe he plays as like some other name on some other site or something. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't see him around much.
Who knows? Some of these people probably play live or yeah, I don't want to speculate. I always go to turn to one thing when I speculate on what anyone might be
Yeah.
doing with themselves. So
I just assume that people are in Macau. Macau is just this magical place where like whatever doesn't make sense in the poker world, just blame it on Macau, or just say that like that person must be in Macau, or like they won that money or lost that money in Macau. That's where like you just anything that happens that you just doesn't make any sense, just somehow roots back to Macau. Like anytime you're playing and like someone is like multi-counting, they're probably like in Macau and like yeah, that's I just blame it on Macau.
that's weird. I don't know what to say, but I've never blamed anything on Macau. I don't. WCG
Well,
says
there's
that's the
just
worst
there's so
place
many
ever.
crazy shit that's been going. Like anything that's been crazy in the last few years, like the whole Jungle Man Tom thing. Clearly, that has like the reason that's so crazy is because there's been crazy shit going on, crazy games going on in Macau, where Tom doesn't want to release the information, but clearly, I guess the profitability of them make it enough that he's like willing to pay Jungle Man money for free. Like it's just like all these things that don't make sense. Usually, it's because something's happened in Macau. Like that's my philosophy. Multi accounting, all these like names that pop up that start the nosebleed games. It's usually somebody from Macau.
That's actually a really good point. Usually is either who was the guy Chow Ren. I think that's actually been proven to be someone like an actual known player though.
Like
So
Grits.
yeah, I played a bunch some point in time. There was a few other
Really
Macau
fucking
accounts.
good.
What'd you
In
say?
my opinion, he's one of the best PLO players in the world. And the thing is that he clearly spends a lot of time in Macau, and it makes me think that the games there must be really profitable because I think he can make a lot of money if he just played a lot of time online.
It's well, a couple late questions actually. WCG actually said he did play you heads up PLO before, and he said he thought he commented on your game. What do you think about his PLO game? Do you have any memory of it?
Yeah, I've talked to him a bit about it. I think of all the Hold'em guys trying to play PLO, I think he did very well. Um, I think he ran bad because he just seemed to get shied away from playing it much after that. But yeah, I think he played pretty well. I mean, there's some stuff that takes a while to figure out in PLO, and I think he was catching on to things pretty quickly. I don't know. I like playing guys like that because Doug's clearly just like a gamer, you know. So like he can play, and you can just play for hours, and then afterwards, like just be cool about it and be like, hey, let's play again tomorrow. But that just doesn't happen very much online poker anymore because it's so cutthroat and ruthless that it's like if you crush a guy for a bunch, he wants to kill you, he hates you, he wants your mom to die in a grease fire, or like he crushes you and then hits and runs, so now you hate him, or like he won't play you again, and like they're just like, but it's nice to have a pure, like just have two pure gamers like just going at it. It's so good for the game.
Yeah,
I love
I'm guessing. I hope you hope that Doug plays more PLO, which I don't actually
I
think
do, not
his
necessarily
plans.
for me directly, but just I think it's good for the games to have another gamer in there.
Yeah, I know we talked about that on the last podcast but I don't think it's really I think initially it might have been in the beginning of the year, but I'm not sure if it's he hasn't really been taking any active steps to do that. So I'm not sure, if that's still in the plans, especially with World Series coming up, stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
talked
So
about it recently. I think he's kind of focusing on Hold'em more.
yeah.
I mean, you'll just have to do another podcast with him and ask him.
You said you mentioned you thought we should do a 3-man pod, me, you,
Yeah.
WCG,
I think that'd be super fun.
and I said I'm not sure if the world's ready for that podcast. Oh my gosh, you and WCG together. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think we'd have some good. I don't know. Maybe it would open me up a little bit. Some of the things that you guys talked about.
It'd be one of the most. Well, you know what? Actually, after the last WCG podcast, I listened to it again. I was like, this is the best poker podcast I've ever heard. Because some of the stuff he says is I mean, it's just entertaining. Sometimes you might learn something.
Yeah.
Obviously he's got.
He's obviously a really smart guy too. So
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got super unique perspective. He's at the top of the heads-up high stakes in the world right now. So I mean, it's
yeah,
just where else do you get to hear this guy talk for 2 hours just about all kind of fucking random things? So
yeah, it's pretty rare too to have somebody at that kind of paramount status to be willing to actually talk to. Like if you go back to 2007, who was the best Hold'em player in the world? I don't even know. Maybe say for example, say it was Tom Dwan. He wasn't doing interviews like that.
right.
At no point has there really been guys like that willing to just kind of expose themselves in that way.
Well, I think that's what also gives me an interesting or very unique perspective on me doing podcasts is that I've played with, pretty much almost everybody, and I have some type of relationship with, a pretty large number of people in the whole entire poker world that play online. So so when I'm talking to people, I can, when I'm asking you questions about PLO, I can ask you questions that no one else is going to ask you because
Right.
they would have no idea, they wouldn't know to ask. You know what I mean?
Eric
they're dumb or
Hansen would
something.
be able to ask me those questions.
Yeah, they just they just wouldn't know what to say or wouldn't know to bring it up, and that's something that that's I think is one of the most unique things about me doing the podcast is that I give a real perspective that doesn't really happen too often.
For
Most
sure.
people, most people that play high stakes PLO, they don't want to, or most people that play high stakes at all, they don't want to play a podcast. They want to make a lot of money and go fuck around and enjoy life. They don't want to
Yeah.
spend time doing this. And
Well, the other thing too is it's very rare that you have guys super successful at poker be extroverts. Most of them are introverts, right?
very
So
true. Very
you
true.
don't get a lot of guys like Doug that are just kind of out there to just do most of them are kind of boring nerdish personalities. Nice guys, but they're not the type that are oh, I want to do a podcast for a couple hours talking about girls.
Yeah.
It's not really the type of personality that tends to succeed in poker.
Well, yeah, it's very true. But hopefully with Dan Bilzerian now, he'll be influencing more of those types to be succeeding in poker. So,
Yeah, man, I have a lot of I don't even know what to say about him.
I love him. I love what he does. I love what he's doing for poker. I love the impact he's going to have. You reading something?
Yeah, definitely. I was reading
No.
one of the messages, but yeah, honestly, at first I was a little bit not upset, but I was a little bit tilted by the fact that he's coming across as this awesome poker player, blah blah blah, and then it just kind of dawned on me that it was why the fuck do I even care, man? This is so fucking good for poker. Honestly, I don't care what he says about who poker. If he's got 1 million Instagram followers and they all think that that's a possibility to be living this life as a poker player, that's fucking awesome, man.
That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said.
So,
I was like, yeah.
I lost my bitterness immediately and was whatever he wants to say is fine by me. He could say he won all his money from me for all I care. I don't care. But as long as he just gets more people playing the games, it's cool with me.
That's the exact transgression, or I think that might be the word I went through. At first I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Won money at poker, yada yada yada. But
Yeah.
then I started reading more articles and more comments and the feedback, the positive feedback he got from people. And I was
Yeah.
like, wait. And I posted this in the thread in NVG. I was like, wait a second. This is the best thing that could have probably could have happened at poker. I mean, this is you have so many bros out there that are wow, if I play poker, I can have naked women at my house all the time, sex, drugs,
Yeah.
guns, private planes. Like holy
Right.
shit, I want this life. I'm gonna play poker.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. But someone actually asked me. So this girl, I had her, my friend was in town from Vancouver, and she recently linked stuff to Dan Bilzerian's thing, and obviously probably shouldn't know who he is, but she's like, man, that guy's life just looks so fun. Like I'd like to hang out with him. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, why? She was like, well, he's just carefree, like has a lot of fun, does all these things. Like it just seems like it'd be a good time.
Right.
And then and that intrigued me because she's like a pretty cool girl, and I was like, well, I didn't think that there'd actually be some girls out there who'd have that viewpoint on that, and it just made me even more realize like how great he is for poker
Oh,
because
for sure.
like, oh man, I love it. I'm hoping when I do a poker tube thing, because they have I'm not sure. I think All in Mag does the videos, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping I might be able to do a podcast with him.
That would be awesome. I feel like that's something you should shoot for. Oh man, Tant says he's up 6 buy-ins. That's awesome.
Is he? Where'd you say that at?
All the comments have just like updated.
Yeah. What the hell? Why am I not seeing these right now? You won 6 binds. Where are you reading that?
What's the last comment you see? Mr. Excellent said playing 1K, Nolan heads up, and then he said as you speak. And then the next comment is Tant saying up 6 buy-ins and won a prop bet for it.
Oh, sick. Good
Yeah,
job. Did you really? That's awesome.
that's pretty sweet.
That's so sick. Nice job, brother. Uh, my friend Cosmo says I heard Joe Ingram is talking about naked women. I might not be.
Uh,
Joe, stay hookers, drugs, and blow.
Massive Galfon is the best heads-up shorthanded PLO player ever.
Good question. Is he? Or is he not the best ever? Is he the best heads up slash shorthanded PLO player? Not named Sean Lefort, by the way.
Um, I would say no, and
Oh,
I wouldn't.
shots.
I wouldn't say that because I'd say that with an attachment to it, saying not because he doesn't have the capability, but because he plays a lot of other games, and if he doesn't play in many heads up battles, and for 3 months I'm constantly battling Ravenswood and MOP and anybody else who's like really good and wants to battle, then when he plays me, like he's just not going to be in a good spot, kind of like similar to like the Sauce like WCG battle. I feel like it's potentially arguable that like if Sauce had more time, he would have been able to like figure things out more. But like Doug even said, it's like Ben's a super smart guy, but he just kind of was on Doug's home territory playing heads up hold'em, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like Phil is definitely in the conversation for the best poker player in the world because he's really good at all the games. But I think it's tough to really classify him as best PLO player in the world. You could say though that if he wanted to, he could be. You could definitely argue that. But if as far as like who the best PLO player in the world is right now, like I wouldn't say it's Phil.
Would you have a guess as far as who's the best PLO player on PokerStars right now?
I would. I wouldn't say it. No.
Oh, it's Sean Lefort. Oh, I know him. Nice
No,
guy.
it's there's a lot of good players. It's tough to like say who's the best. I mean, it's all dynamic. Like are you talking heads up? Are you talking six max? Are you? It's really difficult to.
Well, we're talking heads up in this scenario since you play heads up.
Yeah. Who's the toughest? I don't know. Ravenswood crushes me, man. That guy.
That's what I was gonna ask about him.
I don't necessarily think he's like I think he's super good. I don't necessarily think he's like super 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 good. But against me, his results have been super 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 good. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he's the best.
I think he's
Did you see he lost like $750,000 in a day a couple weeks ago?
at fixed limit 08.
Yeah, that's pretty
Fizzled.
cool.
That was really sad because I don't like when he loses. I need to reach out. I need to reach out to some of these foreign people that aren't really active in 2+2. Get them on a podcast.
Is No Dice Baby the luckiest player alive? Yes.
No, not the luckiest. Odd Odson. Odd Odson's the luckiest PLO player.
Ben 86 is up there.
Yeah, Ben and his goddamn short stack. Yeah.
He's another one who, like, obviously he's super good at PLO, but he doesn't play it as much as like some of the other guys. So I don't know if he would necessarily be like, the best heads-up PLO player in the world when he hasn't really played it much for the last 6 months.
I think when you think about it, I mean, there's so many, especially now, the guys that are still playing, that have been playing, they're really good. And there's more than there's a couple guys, let's say if Sauce was playing all the time, like there's definitely guys who, you know, are in the contention. It's hard to really make a ranking. It's not like everyone's playing everyone else, that
Well,
often.
that's
So
exactly it, right? Like,
yeah,
and that's what I mean by there's so many like intricate dynamics going on that you can't really rate players that way. You can't as much as Doug does. I have trouble doing that.
I think it seems like in No Limit, there's literally like five. There's like Canoe, Ike Haxton, Doug, Sauce, and that's about. Like, no one else plays.
Yeah.
But like, whereas in PLO, there's like a lot more, regulars for the most part. So it's just harder to narrow it down for them.
Yeah, perfect example. Mikhail Robel says, I work in a research lab. My Asian lab mate who knows nothing about poker asked me the other day if I have heard of Dan Blitarian. And I've had like 8 of my friends do the same, where they're just like, oh man, is this guy like, I mean, some guys have joked like, oh, is this you? But obviously it's not because I'm not that cool. But most of them just been like, yo, do you know this guy?
Debatably.
And it's funny because like, the first few times I was like, yeah, man, he's full of shit. He definitely got all his money from his dad. He didn't fucking win it from poker. I'm so fucking bitter. And then I kind of had that same transgression moment that you had. And now I'm just like, yeah, man, he's fucking awesome. Like, follow him on Instagram. He's the boss. Like, it's funny.
That's exactly what happened with me. It's so funny. If you go back at some conversations I had, first thing I said, I was like, "This dad game is money." Now it's just like he's just really good at poker, man. I don't know. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's what she said." She asked me, "Is he one of the best in the world?" That's what my friend asked me. She's like, Is Dan really good at poker? Is he one of the best in the world?" I was like, "Well, let's say you were playing poker and 7 of your friends were playing, and you guys had a lot of money, and Dan was playing. He's the best. He's probably going to win a lot of money from you guys, right? Well, if that's the games he's playing all the time, then he might be one of the best in the world. You know what I mean? If you're
Yeah.
only playing in games where no one's good,
Right.
like he
It's all
said,
relative.
yeah, he's only playing in games where he's the best player. Then I mean,
Just ask Gus Hansen.
what?
Just ask Gus Hansen.
Oh my god,
He would crush if he just played 25-50.
no,
No, he wouldn't. But
no, he wouldn't. That's,
But
no.
the principle remains that he's better than 99% of poker players, but he's down $20 million playing cash games.
Is he really better than 99% of poker players? Are we talking 99% professional poker players? Or are we talking 99% of anyone that plays poker?
I mean, I guess anyone that plays poker regularly, that's kind of your player pool.
Yeah, I don't think he's better than a lot of
And
regulars.
this has been, we're now at like, we're potentially losing podcast watchers forever. We're entering a 4th hour of our podcast.
No, we're not. What kind of fucking weird time are you on in Canada? Are you on CAD time or
3
something?
hours and 11 minutes.
Are we really?
Yeah, man.
Oh shit, you're right. Whoops.
Plus, I gotta eat.
No, I was gonna end it at 2.5 hours. I thought we were at 2 hours 15 minutes right now. My bad. I'm like confused.
This has been fun, though. I feel like I'm happy about the fact that we have covered a lot and been entertaining, I hope, but still saved a lot of content for the future, I think.
That's what I was saying to Caramont. I was like, dude, Caramont, we could have done a 28-hour podcast where we just talked for 28 hours straight, and it probably would have been entertaining all 28 hours to someone out
For
there.
sure.
So yeah, all right, let's wrap it up. Lefort,
All right.
thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If someone out there listened to this for 3 hours and 11 minutes, you listened to the whole thing. 1, you're insane. 2, I love you. 3, I owe you a complimentary Joe and Your One piss bottle. And just got to message me and I'll send it to you.
Absolutely. Thank you to everybody that was watching. I hope everybody got some entertainment from it, and thank you, Joey, for having me.
And yeah, I'll definitely have you on again soon, because why not? And yeah, check out Lefort. Lefort mints at .wordpress.com. Lefort blogging, really informative stuff. Follow us on Twitter at JoinGrim1 or at LefortMints. Subscribe on YouTube. That's it.
All right, over and out.
Goodbye, good luck. Enjoy.
See you guys.
Thank you.